So when you talk about your audit and assessment, what do you mean by the term audit? Audit means EVA, examination of your records and other documents maintained under this act, verification of the correctness and assessment. EVA, examination of all the records and returns and other accounts maintained under the law, verification of the numbers, be it turnover, taxes, refund, ITC, etc., and assessing the compliance of that particular law. That is your audit. Now, what is assessment? Assessment is a very simple term which is very restricted to determination of your tax liability. Very specific. Very, very specific. Finding out your tax liability. It includes different types of assessment, be it self-assessment, reassessment, provisional assessment, summary assessment, best judgment assessment. If you see the terms make it evidently clear that assessment has got a very narrow scope and audit has got a very wide scope. Assessment is finding out your tax liability. Self-assessment, reassessment, provisional assessment, final assessment, summary assessment, best judgment assessment. It is finding out your tax liability. Finding out your tax liability. What is audit? Detailed examination of all the records and accounts that you have under the law. Verification of the numbers, be it your turnover, be it your tax payable, be it your input tax, be it your refund, and even going to the extent of assessment of your compliance, all the other things that you have done properly or not. So audit is a very wide term. Now when you talk about your audit, there are two types of audit that you have. First we'll take a wider term, which is your audit. Section 65 audit, departmental audit, and section 66 special audit. Now what has started recently in all parts of India is section 65 general audit. Section 65 general audit. Now why section 65 general audit will come into picture? Commissioner or any officer authorized by the commissioner, either by way of general order or specific order, can ask the officer to do audit of a registered person either at his premises or call him at your premises, which means call him in the department, either at his premises or at the office of the commissioner or the authorized person. Now that general audit can be taken for a particular financial year or a group of financial year or even part of financial year. 1 financial year, 3 financial year, it can be even 1.5 financial years or 2.5 financial years. So general audit is against whom? A registered person. How it starts? By a general or special order given by the commissioner or the authorized person. It will start at which place? At the place of assessee or at the department for which year? Financial year or part or group of financial year. Now who is going to do the audit for that? The auditee is a registered person. Who is going to do the audit? Commissioner or the authorized officer. Audit is going to be done by the commissioner or the authorized officer. But what about special audit? The special audit is very special. Special audits, the name itself suggests, it is because of some difficulty that it has started. Now what is the situation? AC with the prior permission of commissioner. So which means by default it is not happening. Assistant commissioner will take the prior permission of the commissioner. Tells that there is a registered person for whom special audit is required. Why? Because he is already doing some scrutiny, some work is going on already against that registered person. Some work is going on, be it scrutiny, inquiry, investigation, or any of the proceedings. But officer is not able to understand. Now, how to tell he is not able to understand? He tells that the nature of the work is such that it is not possible to find whether the value is properly declared or the ITC is properly availed. That is the complex nature of the work that officer doubts. Value is undervalued. ITC is overavailed. ITC is overavailed. Now, why the special audit comes again? Assistant commissioner is already doing some work, be it scrutiny or inquiry or investigation or any of the proceedings. But he finds the work is such that the nature of the work is such that it is highly complex. He is not in a position to find out what exactly is happening, but he is sure either there is some problem with the valuation, undervaluation, or problem with ITC, over availment of ITC. But because of the complex nature of the work, he is not in a situation to understand. Classic example. Classic example. All the gaming apps. All the gaming apps. Right. Gaming apps notices also being served in 42,000 crores and all. Why? Because it is highly complex. They are not in a position to understand what will happen. So what they will do, they'll go to the commissioner and tell, let's see. We have done our basic work, but we are not able to conclude finality. We are not able to arrive at a conclusion. Please help us. Now what commissioner will tell? Commissioner will tell, don't worry, I am there for you. He'll tell that I'll appoint a CA or CMA and I'll ask him to do the special audit. I'll ask him to do the special audit. And a very important point for special audit may be done even if general audit is already over. Special audit may be done even if general audit is already over. You cannot tell that no, general audit was already over. Now why suddenly special audit? Even if general audit is already over, even if your income tax audit is over, forget about that. Special audit can still be started. So the situation which is there is discussed. Now whether there will be any fees for officer doing his own departmental audit or general audit? No, there won't be any fees. But whether there will be any fees for special audit which is done by CA, CMA under the instruction of commissioner? Yes, it will be determined and paid by the commissioner and that amount will be final. That amount will be final. Now, what is the time limit which are there in your general audit? Section 65 general audit. So there is an advance notice that will be given to you. So how it will start? It will start with a advance notice. 15 days minimum notice will be there that we are going to come for your audit. Keep all these details ready. They'll give the list of the details and they'll give even the contact details. This is our mail ID. This is our phone number. Please contact us for any doubts. Keep all these details ready. Minimum 15 days notice will be given and audit needs to be completed within 3 months plus 6 months extension by the commissioner. 3 plus 6. 3 plus 6. But what is the starting point? The starting point is when they actually start the audit. When they actually start the audit or when all the accounts are made available to them. The time limit of 3 months plus 6 months will not start from the time limit which is mentioned in the advance notice. It will start when they might have said that we'll be coming on so and so date. 99.99% they'll not come on that date. They'll come later. Because they'll be doing audit at different places as well. So if they are coming late, that time limit of 3 months plus 6 months will start from that, subject to you have made all the accounts records available. If they start the work but they find that balance details are yet to be given, then it will start when even all the other details are given. Put it in simple words. Actual starting of audit or all the records made available, whichever is later, whichever is from that time calculate 3 plus 6 months. From that time calculate 3 plus 6 months. Now here what is the time limit for the CA, CMA to complete the audit? It will be 90 days plus 90 days. See, who is doing the work here? Officer. 3 months plus 6 months. Who's doing the work here? Be proud. 90 days plus a 90 days extension given by the commissioner on the request by the auditor at times suo moto. At times suo moto because of the material insufficiency. AC himself tells 90 days is not sufficient. Please extend it to the another 90 days. Generally, the request will be made by the auditor, that is CA, CMA, to ask for extension. At times, commissioner will suo moto extend it because of the sufficient reasons. So 3 plus 6, 90 plus 90, 90 plus 90. So when you talk about the audit report, general audit, section 65 audit is a friendly audit. It's a friendly audit. Proper officer will share all the discrepancies to the registered person and ask for his reply. He'll tell that these are my observations, please reply. Final audit report will be done after the reply is given. Within 30 days of completion of audit, auditee will be informed about the findings and what actions he can take. So first there will be a draft audit report, then there will be a reply by the registered person, then there will be final audit report, then there will be final audit report. Within 30 days, this should happen. Everything should happen within 30 days. Draft audit report, reply and final audit report. And in the final audit report, they'll tell that these are my findings and these are the actions that you can take. It is not necessary for the assessee to make the payment of taxes. then the next step officer will do is give notices. Right. Now that will even complete here itself. The follow-up action for the officer will be giving a notice under section 73-74. This itself will not create a liability. The audit report finalized by the officer will not create a liability. The final action will be again give a notice under section 73-74. Again, there will be an opportunity given to the assessee for explaining his point of view. Audit report, though it was discussed, though there was a draft audit report, reply being shared and final audit report was given, that doesn't mean that it becomes an order. Again, officer has to start from notice level. Section 73 notice or section 74 notice, then PONJ, principle of natural justice, then finally the order. Here, just tell me why the special audit started. It started because AC was having a difficulty to do the work that he was doing, scrutiny, audit, inquiry, investigation, something. So what will happen on the completion of audit report which is duly signed by CACMA will be given to the assistant commissioner, also the assessee, also the registered person. He will be also shared. It is not only to assistant commissioner, even the registered person also will be shared. Now, why it is mainly shared to assistant commissioner? Because assistant commissioner can complete the work which was pending, complete the scrutiny, inquiry, investigation or any other proceedings that was there, and finally when he arrives at a conclusion, he cannot give the final order. He has to discuss his observations with the assessee and give the final order if at all it was at notice level. If at all it was at notice level. CACMA will give the report to whom? AC and registered person. But he will not discuss anything with the registered person. Now, the case will go back to AC. AC will complete this pending work. Be it scrutiny, inquiry, investigation or any other proceedings, whatever work was pending, he'll complete his work. But when he's completing his work, just because there's an audit report by CACMA, he cannot decide on the decision. He cannot finally arrive at a decision. He will tell that this was the audit report shared by CACMA. This is my final understanding. You please explain your point of view, principle of natural justice, and then finally, if at all it is at a notice level, then finally I'll give you an order. So that is all about your general audit or department audit under section 65 and special audit under section 66. Now let us talk about the different assessments that you have. First is a case of self-assessment. All the tax laws that you see now are all going on the concept of self-assessment. So when you talk about self-assessment, you have to read section 59 read along with section 61. That will be scrutiny. What is self-assessment? Registered person. By the way, both the audits, general audit and special audit was only against registered person. Was only against registered person. So even when you talk about self-assessment, it is all against registered person who has self-assessed the tax and filed the return. Now officer, he might find some discrepancy. He might think that there are some details which is not given correctly. So he'll inform the discrepancies. What assessee has to do? Either accept discrepancy or correct them or offer explanation within 30 days plus extension. He has to take an action within 30 days plus extension. What possible actions will be there? First possible action. He is accepting and correcting the mistake, the chapter is closed there. If he is giving an explanation which is okay for the officer, nothing will be taken ahead. If he is giving an explanation, if he is accepting the difference, he is telling that yes, there's a mistake, I am ready to rectify my mistake, nothing will happen. See, within 30 days, what is required to do? Either accept the mistake, close the chapter, pay and close the chapter, or give explanation. If he is accepting the mistake, paying the dues, the chapter is closed. If he is giving an explanation, officer satisfied, chapter is closed. When issue starts, if he is not accepting his mistake, he is telling that there is no mistake. If he is offering an explanation which is not found to be acceptable, or if he is not taking any action, neither reply nor acceptance or discrepancies is accepted, but he is not correcting in the next month. All these means that he is not ready to go ahead. Either he did not give any reply, or his reply was not satisfactory, or he accepted that there is a mistake but he is not correcting it. But he is not, what officer will do? Officer, please understand that audit and assessment will not create liability per se. Thumb rule of audit and assessment, it will not create liability. Now, officer will take further action. Officer may go for general audit under section 65, special audit under section 66. He may start inspection under section 67. He may directly give notice under 73, 74. Rather, you need to understand, even if he's going for general audit or special audit or inspection under section 65, 66 or 67, again he has to come via route of section 73, 74. Either directly he'll give notice under section 73, 74, or first he'll do his groundwork. Section 65 audit or section 66 audit or section 67 inspection. Collect more information. Collect. Then start with notice. 73, 74 notice. 73, 74 notice. That is all about your self-assessment and scrutiny of returns in terms of section 59 read along with section 61. Now you're talking about your provisional assessment and final assessment given in your section 60. Now when assessee will opt for your provisional assessment, when he'll think of provisional assessment, only two reasons. Only and only, he is not sure of the value, he is not sure of the rate. Assessee is having doubt with valuation or doubt with classification. He is not sure. Is not sure of the valuation or the classification. But this time they've used the term taxable person. Taxable person. Now what he'll do? He'll make an application to proper officer for doing provisional assessment. He'll tell officer, you decide. Officer, I have doubt with my value, you decide. Whether the subsidy given by holding company should be added because it is not a subsidy linked to the price, it is a general subsidy. Now you decide. Proper officer will do provisional assessment. And he has to do provisional assessment quickly. Within 90 days of the request. Within 90 days of the request. He'll decide a rate or he'll decide the value. Let us assume that assessee is having doubt with 5% or 12%. Now you might wonder why the term taxable person is used. It can be a case where he is having doubt whether it is 0% or 5%. 0% or he is not registered, thinking that it is 0. But he is having doubt. It might be 0, it might be. Therefore, in section 65 audit, registered person. 66 audit, registered person. Self-assessment, scrutiny of returns, registered person. Suddenly you find here the term taxable person. Taxable. Now let us assume that he is having doubt with respect to say 5%, 12%. Officer may tell that provisionally, as of now, you go with 5%. As of now, you go with provisional assessment is on lower side or higher side. Whenever it is on lower side, you have to give a bond. You have to give a bond along with surety or security. Now, in GST as well as customs, what is preferred is only security, not surety. And the security value should be less or equal to 25% of, which means if the difference is between 5% and 12%, if the difference is coming, say, to the extent of 70,000, in terms of tax, it is coming as bond value will be 70,000. But security will not be 70,000. It will be 25% of 70,000. Your written promise will be 70,000. But your security paper will be, security generally preferred security is bank guarantee, BG. BG will not be for 70,000. It will be for 75,000. 70,000 multiplied by 25%. Whether this issue will come when provisional assessment is on higher side. If provisional assessment is on higher side, say in our example, say 12%, lower side, say 5%. If it is on higher side, there is no question of any bond. There is no question of any bond. Obviously, there is no question of any bond. Why? He has paid the higher value. There is no risk to the government. There is no risk to there is no need of bond. Provisional assessment will be done. But understand that officer did it in haste within 90 days. Now, finally, officer is required to do final assessment within 6 months plus another 6 months extension by joint commissioner, additional commissioner plus another 4 years extension by commissioner from the date of provisional assessment order. From the date of request, 90 days, provisional order. From provisional order, 6 plus 6 plus 4 years. 6 months plus 6 months plus 4 years. From the date of provisional assessment order. Which means they can decide finally, they can take easily 5 years to decide a final assessment order. But normal time limit for them is 6 months. If they want to extend it for the next 6 months, go to higher officer, JCAC, Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioner. Additional, not assistant, additional commissioner. They want to extend it for another time. After 1 year, go to commissioner. He will extend the time. He will extend the time. Now, there are multiple situations or scenarios possible. Let us focus on the examples and try to understand it very quickly. If provisional assessment was at 5%, final assessment is also 5%. Nothing to worry. You have paid 5%, finally it is 5%, nothing to worry. You have given a bond, that will be cancelled. You have given a bond, that will be, if your provisional assessment was at 12%, final assessment is also at 12%, nothing to worry. Bond was never given. There's no question of any cancellation of bond. So if it is 5 and 5, it is 12 and 12, nothing to worry. But if it is 5 and 5, initially you gave bond because it was on lower side, now you're going to cancel the bond. If it is 12, 12, nothing to worry. Bond was never given. There's no question of any cancellation of bond. But what if provisional assessment was at lower side? Provisional assessment was at lower side. Provisional assessment was at 5%. Final assessment is 12%. Or what if provisional assessment was at higher side? Final assessment is at lower side. What will happen in the first case and what will happen in the second case? In first case, provisional assessment 5%, you have paid 5%, but finally you have to pay. Should you pay? Yes. Should you pay? Yes. So that is a tax that you have to pay along with interest. INE. Interest will start from where? Interest will start from where? Interest will start from the date tax was originally due. Assume that this transaction pertains to April 2023. Transaction pertains to April 2023. And final assessment order, assume that it has gone to commissioner, is given in somewhere April 2027. April 2027. You have to pay interest. Yes. Interest has to be paid at 18%. So that will be differential amount. Differential amount in our example, let us take 70,000 multiplied by 18% per annum multiplied by the number of days of delay. For April month, what was the due date of payment normally? So it will start from 21st of May 2023 till the actual date of payment, which will be somewhere in 2027. Which will be somewhere in 27. Somewhere. If after you get final assessment order, you can pay immediately or you can take 1 month time and all. So it will be somewhere in 2027. Imagine 4 years. Imagine the interest will be for 4 years, 72%. If the tax amount is 1 lakh, you are going to pay interest of 72,000. Interest of 72,000. So that is the difficulty in provisional assessment. Though you are a genuine assessee, though you went for provisional assessment, there is no relaxation in interest. There is no relaxation in interest. Are we clear with this understanding? Are you guys clear with this understanding? Interest will start from the actual due date of payment till the actual date of payment. But what if it is the other case? What if it is the other case? Refund. What was the other case? It was the case of refund. You have paid 12, but you have to pay 5. Now you are going to get a refund. You are going to get a refund. Refund is always subject to doctrine of unjust enrichment, which means that you should not have passed on the burden. If you pass on the burden, you will not get the refund in your pocket. They will take in consumer welfare fund. If you want to get the refund in your pocket, make sure that the burden was not passed, or if it was passed, you reverse the burden. You reverse the burden. Now refund, when you get refund, will you get interest? Yes, they are very clear that we'll have equal policy. But how far equal policy is there? Let us see. Interest will be what percentage? That differential amount, interest will be there when it is refund. When it is refund, that differential amount, interest will be there. At what percentage? When government gives you interest, it is 6%. Wait. Starting from which date? After expiry of 60 days from the, not after expiry of 60 days from final assessment order. What was our understanding? The transaction pertains to April 2023 and final assessment order came in April 2027. The transaction pertains to April 2023. Then you will apply for refund application. After that, 61st day will be the first day for interest. So interest will be given, but what amount? You decide. The amount for interest will start from from the 61st day of refund application. After 61st day of refund application till the date of actual refund given by the government. Till date is always simple. From date is the question. 61st day. Comparatively, the rate is reduced. The period is also reduced. 18 is reduced to 6. Period is drastically reduced. Somewhere in most of the cases, if government is giving you refund within 60 days, no interest. If government is giving you refund within 60 days of your refund application, there's no interest. So that is all about your provisional assessment. Now, general audit, registered person. Special audit, registered person. Self-assessment, scrutiny of returns, registered person, but provisional assessment, taxable person. Best judgment can be against registered person, also against unregistered person. Registered person, also again unregistered person. Against registered person. Why it will start? You're talking about a scenario where you have not filed your returns. First step is you have not filed your returns. Then what officer does? Second step. Officer gives you notice under section 46 to file your return within 15 days. First step is you did not file your returns. Officer gave you notice under section 46 to file your return within 15 days. Even after getting the notice, you did not file your returns. Then officer can start best judgment assessment under section 62, which is against registered person, within 5 years from the due date of annual return of that financial year to which the liability pertains. The time limit for doing best judgment assessment against registered person is 5 years. 5 years from where? From the due date of annual return of that financial year to which the liability pertains. Very well. First opportunity was given to you. You did not file your returns, you got a notice under section 46 to file within 15 days. You did not file. Then they will start best judgment assessment. Now understand that when officer starts best judgment, it is very dangerous. Best of the judgment means whatever he thinks he'll put. Now they give a relaxation. If at all assessee is not satisfied with the best judgment assessment order, he can file his returns. Within 30 days of the best judgment assessment order, pay the taxes along with interest and late fees. Best judgment is deemed to be withdrawn. Automatic withdrawal. You need not do anything. It is deemed to be, which means you are getting a second opportunity. First, you got a notice under section 46 to file your return within 15 days. You did not file. Then they started best judgment assessment, which they have time till 5 years from the due date of your annual return. If they have started, even after doing best judgment order, which is you, the moment you see the best judgment order, you're surprised. The liability there runs in hundreds of crores. Your turnover has never crossed 1 crore. But the liability there is hundreds of crores. What do you do? Don't worry. File your pending returns within 30 days of best judgment assessment order. Pay the tax, interest, late fees, everything. Automatically, the best judgment assessment order is withdrawn. The purpose of best judgment assessment order here was you're not filing your return. You file your return, okay, no worries. Automatic withdrawal. You need not even inform the officer. Technically, practically, better to inform the officer. Technically, you need not even inform the officer. Automatically, the best judgment assessment order is withdrawn. This is best judgment against registered person, section 62. Now it is best judgment against unregistered person, section 63. Now, best judgment against unregistered person will start because of two reasons. Either, in both the cases, you are a fraudulent person. You are liable for registration, you did not take the registration. You took the registration, but you are doing fraud, proper officer cancelled your registration. You are liable for registration, you did not take the registration. You are unregistered. You took registration, doing activities which is not allowed in terms of section 29. Proper officer suo moto cancelled the registration, which is totally possible in 14 cases. Totally 14 cases, proper officer can suo moto cancel the registration. He has cancelled your registration. He has cancelled your, but cancellation of registration will not relieve you from your liability. Just because registration is cancelled does not mean that your tax liability is not there. Still your liability will be there. Now, what will happen? What will happen? Proper officer initially will give you a notice telling that I am going to start your best judgment assessment. Unregistered, and the same time limit is the same. 5 years from the due date of annual return to which the liability pertains. So he'll initially give a notice. There will be reply by the person, and finally he'll pass the why reply, because best judgment assessment is based on the records and facts available. So assessee might try to give some records and facts. Thereafter, proper officer will pass best judgment assessment order under section 63. Under section 63, telling that this is the final assessment. Please understand, unlike your best judgment under section 62, there is no concept of withdrawal. Now, which type of persons are we talking about? Fraud persons. They were liable for registration, never took registration. They took registration, but proper officer suo moto cancelled the registration. So here there is no concept of withdrawal of best judgment assessment order. Once it is done, it is final. All you can do is go and challenge in appeals. Now, normally, what is the steps to be followed for best judgment under section 62? Is a theoretical point. They are telling that department should give reminders for filing your notice. Then if you don't file your notice, then they'll give a notice, file within 15 days. Then after 15 days, again they'll give you notice for best judgment. If you don't reply, they'll give you best judgment assessment order. Then within 30 days of best judgment assessment order, you can again file your returns. It will be withdrawn. But if you don't do that, then 73, 74. Then officer will proceed with 73, 74. So this is entirely explained. I mean, the recovery will happen in 70, not 73, 74. By the way, one small catch here. When you talk about your best judgment and summary assessment, it is different from other audits and assessment. It is different from other audits and assessment. How it is different? In audit and other assessment. What was other assessment? Your self-assessment, scrutiny of returns, and provisional assessment, final assessment. In all these cases, the follow-up action was 73, 74 notice. Finally. But in best judgment assessment and summary assessment, finally it is the order. Finally it is the order. Just few minutes back I was telling that if you don't like it, please go for appeals. Please go for appeals. Both are highly dangerous. This is not only true for best judgment, also true for summary assessment. That is the final order. If you don't like it, go and challenge in your appeals. Go and challenge in your appeals. And finally, you're talking about a more dangerous assessment. If you think that best judgment assessment is a dangerous assessment, there's something called as more dangerous assessment, which is a summary assessment. Which is a summary assessment under section 64. Now, from against whom this summary assessment will be started? Proper officer has evidence to believe that a taxable person has incurred the liability, and he has sufficient grounds to believe that if at all he is going by normal route of section 73 notice, section 74 notice, then passing the order, this person will run away. This person will run away. So, what are the two criteria for starting this dangerous assessment? Proper officer is having evidence, not reasons to believe. Normally, you will find the term reasons to believe. This time the term is evidence that there is a liability on that person. There is a liability on that, and he is very, very, very clear. If at all he is going by normal routes of section 73, 74, government is going to lose revenue. It is adversely impact the revenue, which means he's going to run away. In a very simple language, they have not used the language run away. In a very simple language, they are trying to tell that this assessee will run away like all the persons who have run away from India. So what to do now? What to do now? Now what will happen is, he will give a summary assessment order. This is the first step. Second step, summary assessment order. He will go and take the permission of additional commissioner and joint commissioner. First two criteria satisfied, then the third criteria. He'll go and take the permission of a higher officer because he is doing something which is very serious. Additional commissioner or joint commissioner. Then he will give directly a summary assessment order. Summary assessment order. Normally to a taxable person, at times to deemed taxable person. At times it will be given to a deemed taxable person. Deemed taxable person. There are 4 hidden deemed supplies. First, when you're talking about if the goods are found in a place where proper accounting is not there, it is deemed to be supplied. It is deemed to be supplied. Second, sale on approval basis. If acceptance rejection does not happen within 6 months, it is deemed to be supplied. Third, in job worker case, if the goods given to job worker does not come back within 1 plus 1 year extension, 3 capital goods, 3 plus 2 years extension, it is deemed to be supplied. Fourth, this place where you're talking about, there's a taxable person whom liability pertains is not ascertainable, which means he is not found. He is not found. Such liability pertains to supply of goods, which means you're talking about dealing only with goods. The person in charge shall be deemed to be the taxable person. In simple language, they are talking about warehouse keeper and transporter. Both these people, they are having the control over the goods. Now, office is telling that, tell me whose goods they are. But they are not opening their mouth. They are telling that, no. We are going to get a good amount if you don't really reveal the name of our owner. So, we are not going to tell these goods belong to so and so company. Now, officer can tell that, okay, if you are not sharing the details of the taxable person to whom the liability pertains, we will treat you as deemed taxable person. And the goods that are kept here, it's deemed to be supplied by you. You face the consequences. And the consequences are directly, straight away, very dangerous consequences. Summary assessment. Right. Normally, it is against a taxable person. Normally, you will find this against only a taxable person. At times, it will be against a deemed taxable person. Why? Warehouse keeper, transporter. If you read this again and again, you will find that they are talking about whom? Person in charge means whom? Warehouse keeper and transporter are not disclosing the identity of the real taxable person. They will be deemed to be taxable person of the goods. And when you talk about warehouse keeper and transporter, will they deal with any services? Obviously, it is only goods. And the goods that they have in their control will be deemed to be supplied by them. Though they are not supplied, but it is deemed to be supplied by them. And not only that, they will face the dangerous consequences directly. There will be a summary assessment order. Summary assessment against which the only remedy is appeals. The only remedy which is available is appeals. Now, understand that concept of summary assessment is over, but they give a relaxation. At times, this action of summary assessment is taken by the officer because of grudge against the assessee. And understand, summary assessment is so rare that throughout the lifetime experience of an officer, he might never have used it. He might have used all the other things, but he might never have used it. So it is very rare. And if it is against a company, the company's reputation is at stake. It clearly means that if I am the officer, if I am initiating summary assessment against a company, it means that I am trying to tell that this director or the managing director is going to run away. It's not a normal assessment where the company will easily say, okay, we'll take care, we'll go for appeals and all. So what will happen? Such companies will make an application for withdrawal of summary assessment order within 30 days. Now understand that this is not automatic withdrawal like best judgment assessment under section 62. They have to make an application. They have to make an application to JCAC. Who started, by the way? Officer started by taking permission from JC, Joint Commissioner and Additional Commissioner. The assessee will make a request to Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioner, telling that, see, I'm here. You see my past performance. You have given me tens of notices. To all the notices, I have replied. Either the matter is closed, or I have paid the dues, or the matter is pending in appeals. I have never run away. Therefore, you allowing your officer to start with summary assessment is not fair. It's not. Withdraw the summary assessment order. Ask him to come via normal routes. AC, Additional Commissioner, Joint Commissioner will understand it. Either on its own motion. At times, Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioner will be afraid, okay, they have started summary assessment against Reliance Limited. JCAC, when he signed, he did not see the company's name. Now, finally, he realized that, okay, it is against Reliance Limited. On his own motion or on receipt of application from Reliance Limited, he'll tell the officer, officer, you come. Why the hell you started summary assessment? You have normal procedure. Go with section 73, 74. Go with your section 73, 74. That is summary assessment. That is summary assessment. But mind you, this withdrawal of summary assessment order is not automatic. Though you might find that 30 days similar. This 30 days similar. In case of best judgment assessment order against section 62, if you file your returns within 30 days of best judgment assessment order, automatically best judgment assessment order is withdrawn. But summary assessment, if order is received, it is not automatically withdrawn. You have to make an application within 30 days. A Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioner should be satisfied that yes, this summary assessment was not the right action. Officer should have followed the normal process of 73, 74 and asking him to go by normal route of 73, 74. Right. Now, what are the differences that you clearly find? All the other audits and assessment, the follow-up action is 73, 74. At least the final follow-up action is 73, 74. In between, you can also try other things. Audit, inspection, etc., etc. But the final follow-up action is 73, 74. But. Summary assessment, best judgment assessment, directly it is an order. You don't have 73, 74 coming in picture. Directly it is an order. The only thing that you can do is go for appeals. First. Second thing, all the audits and assessment are generally started against registered person. What are the differences? First, provisional assessment, taxable person. Second, best judgment assessment against section 63. It is unregistered person, basically taxable, liable for registration or suo motu cancellation. And third, summary assessment. Summary assessment. They don't use the word registered person, they go with taxable person. They go with taxable person. So that's everything about your different types of assessment and different types of audits under your GST. Now, when you talk about your best judgment assessment for a registered person for non-filing of returns under section 62, please understand there's a concept of automatic withdrawal. Automatic withdrawal of best judgment assessment order. There's a concept of automatic withdrawal of best judgment assessment order. Previously, the time limit was your 30 days. If at all, after getting best judgment assessment order, you file all your returns within 30 days, you will find that best judgment assessment order is withdrawn. Now that 30 days is changed to 60 days. Plus, previously there was no extension. Now you get an additional extension of 60 days for sufficient reasons. And when you get an extension of additional 60 days, they put a point that you have to pay additional late fees of rupees 100 per day of extension. This is CGST late fees, copy paste SGST late fees. So what is the change which is brought out in your best judgment assessment under section 62? There was always a concept called as automatic withdrawal of best judgment assessment order if you are filing your pending returns within some time. Right, when you're filing your pending returns, you have to make the payment, and it is always said that you make the payment of tax and file your returns. Obviously, your interest liability, late fees liability will continue. Now, that is a best judgment assessment order that you have got. You have already received best judgment assessment order. Now it will be automatically withdrawn if you file your pending returns. Say they give second chance to you. In spite of getting disbursement assessment order, there's a second chance for you that still that order which is received will be taken off or taken away, will be withdrawn if you file your pending returns within. Even after getting disbursement assessment order, if you file your returns within 60 days, it will be withdrawn. That initially 30 days, now it is changed to 60 days. Also, they have given an extra additional time limit of, you can go for an extension of another 60 days, but when you go for that extension, they tell that there'll be additional late fees that you have to pay, which is for extension rupees 100 per day for extension. So if you have going after 60 days and there's extra 10 days delay, so rupees 100 for that extra 10 days extension. This is CGST additional late fees. Copy paste will be your SGST additional late fees. So when you talk about demand and recovery, the first part is your demand, basically starting at section 73, 74, 75 a common provision, 76. The first part is all about your demand. Then we'll have recovery. So when you talk about your demand, it is basically section 73 and 74. You will first get a show cause notice followed by a demand order. So the sequence of that would be, proper officer will be first giving a show cause notice under section 73 if it is a bona fide case. Show cause notice under section 74 if it is a mala fide case to the assessee. Now what is a bona fide case? What is a mala fide case? If at all you are talking about a scenario where show cause notice is given for any reason other than fraud, misrepresentation or willful misstatement, then it is a bona fide case. If show cause notice is given because of fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of facts with an intention to evade tax, then it is a fraudulent case. So you are going to get a notice. By the way, the notice will have 5 reasons, whether it is 73 or 74. Either the first point would be tax not paid, or tax short paid, or tax erroneously refunded. Non-payment, short payment, erroneous refund. Taxes. Then ITC. Wrongly availed, wrongly utilized. So there are 5 reasons for you to get the show cause notice. Non-payment, short payment, erroneous refund, availment, wrong availment of ITC and wrong utilization of ITC. And for these 5 reasons, you can get a notice either under 73 bona fide case or under 74 fraudulent case. Now understand that suppression of facts, which is one of the fraudulent case, non-declaration of a fact which is required to be declared in anything, whether written statement or report or any other document, or not providing an information asked by the officer. That is meant by suppression of facts. 2 things, either you are required to give it but you do not give, or you are called for giving that information but you did not give. That is suppression of facts. Willful misstatement is wrong. You have said something which is clearly wrong. Suppression means silence. You are asked but you did not give. You had to give but you did not give. That is suppression. Now, when you talk about this show cause notice, assessee can either represent himself or via authorized representative, being assessee himself or advocate, CA, CS, CMA or retired officer or GST practitioner. Right. And he will be given maximum 3 judgments. Obviously, the moment you are talking about notice and order, there will be opportunity of being heard. Finally, you will get an order. After notice, you are going to get an order. So when you are going to get an order cannot be on certain things, certain important points of orders. Order cannot have new grounds. The grounds that are raised in notice can be the only grounds. Order cannot have a new ground which was not raised in show cause notice. The amount in order, basically the tax amount in order cannot be more than tax amount therein show cause notice. So 2 important points. Your order cannot have new ground. The tax amount in order cannot be more than the amount in show cause notice. What about interest and penalty? They are all automatic. They are all automatic. Interest is mandatory. Even if it is not mentioned in the order, you have to pay it because it will keep changing. Penalty will differ based on which category you are falling. Tax amount should be there in order, and that tax amount in order cannot be more than the amount in show cause notice. Now there is something called two special points about your notice. One, something called as deemed show cause notice and something called as change of show cause notice. Now what is this deemed show cause notice? If at all a show cause notice for a old period is already issued and subsequent period you find the same matter being repeated. It's not about the fraud case. It is a genuine bona fide case. Then instead of giving a detailed show cause notice, you can just give a statement and tell that refer the earlier show cause notice. Refer the earlier show cause notice. What are the criteria? There's already show cause notice which is given, already proceedings which is happening. It is not ended. It is in process. And on the same grounds, exactly same grounds, you want to extend the period. It should not be a fraudulent case. Because for fraudulent case, you have to give another notice. You want to extend the show cause notice. The notice is for 1 year. You want to extend it for 2 years. Because while investigating, you found that the same issue is there for the other year as well. So what you can do? Either again draft a detailed show cause notice or a simple manner. Give a statement. Give a reference to the earlier show cause notice. It will be called as deemed show cause notice. Deemed, but make sure that even the statement should be within the time limit. So that is very clear. There's no relaxation for the time limit. That is the first part. Now the second part here is officer started this matter as a show cause notice under section 74. Finally, it was decided by appellate authority, appellate tribunal or high court or supreme court that there's no fraud involved. Therefore, basically prima facie, the moment they tell that, it means show cause notice is void ab initio. But the provision tells that even though we started with a show cause notice, treating it as fraudulent show cause notice, section 74, later on it was held by appellate authority, appellate tribunal, high court or supreme court that it is not a fraudulent case, it is a bona fide case. The same show cause notice is still valid, but treated as a show cause notice issued under section 73. The period which was covered will be reduced. It was covering say last 4 years. Now it cannot cover last 4 years. It will automatically get reduced. Why? In bona fide case, you cannot go back up to 2 years. The time limit for giving show cause notice is 2 years, 9 months. So that period will be automatically reduced. You might have taken the case for last 4 years, but now the period will automatically get reduced. The good news is for the department is the show cause notice is still valid. Treat it as a show cause notice under section 73. Though you would have initially taken an action for say last 4 years, but now it will not be valid for the last 4 years. It will be valid treating it as a show cause notice under section 73. Accordingly, you have to reduce the coverage of the show cause notice. So that is change in your show cause notice. Now, certain special points. There's no need of show cause notice and there's no need of demand in two special cases. This is given here. It's also given in the next page. There's no need of notice and order in two cases, which means there will be directly recovery under section 79. Direct recovery. What are the two cases? Where you don't require any notice and all. Notice and order. If at all it is a self-assessed tax which is not yet paid. This is clearly self-assessed tax, but you have not yet paid. Or if it is interest. Or if it is interest payment, which you are liable but you are not paying. Lot of assessees don't pay interest, they wait till the notice coming. The notice can come up, there is no need of notice. You can be asked this amount even after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. There's no time limit. And also importantly, there will be no notice. They'll directly recover it. For self-assessed tax which is not yet paid, plus for interest, two important things. No need of notice and no need of order. No time limit. Now, self-assessed tax which is not yet paid will include a scenario where you have declared the sales in GSTR 1 or IFF but not declared in GSTR 3B. You have declared that in GSTR 1 or IFF but not declared in GSTR 3B. So that is an example or classic scenario which is covered in self-assessed tax which is not yet paid. Now, talking about the other aspects. Now, first let us discuss about the time limit for issuing show cause notice. Time limit for issuing demand order. What is the time limit for issuing show cause notice and time limit for issuing demand order? If it is a section 73 case, first you will be giving show cause notice. What is the time limit for giving show cause notice? 2 years, 9 months from relevant date. 2 years, 9 months from relevant date. What is the time limit for giving order? 3 years from relevant date. For notice it is 2 years 9 months. For order it is 3 years. What is that relevant date? If it is a case of erroneous refund, relevant date is date of erroneous refund. If it is any other case, that relevant date is due date of annual return for that financial year. See, relevant date is basically due date of your annual return. Due date of your annual return. Put it in simple terms. If it is financial year 23-24, what is the due date of annual return? 31st of December 2024. From that time, 2 years 9 months you can give show cause notice. 2 years 9 months you can give show cause notice. Within 3 years you can give demand order. So notice should be given within 2 years 9 months and order should be given within 3 years. From which time? For financial year 23-24, this 2 years 9 months and 3 years will start from 31st December 2024. But if it is a case of erroneous refund, 2 years 9 months and 3 years will start from the date of erroneous refund. Will start from the date of erroneous refund. Right. So for financial year 23-24, what is the time limit for giving show cause notice? Entire 2025, entire 2076, then 9 months, which means 30th of September 2027. 30th of September 2027 is the last date for giving show cause notice. 31st of December 2027 is the last date for giving order. Assuming it is a bona fide case. Assuming it is a bona fide case. What if I tell it is a fraudulent case? For show cause notice, 4 years 6 months from relevant. What is the relevant date? Normally it is due date of annual return. For erroneous refund it is the date of erroneous refund. What is the last date for giving order? 5 years from relevant date. What is relevant date? Normally it is due date of filing annual return. Erroneous refund, in case of erroneous refund, it is the date of erroneous refund. So for financial year 23-24, what is the last date for giving notice under section 74? From where? Assuming it is a normal case. 23-24 means annual return due date is 31st December 2024. From that, 4 years 6 months. Entire 25, entire 26, entire 27, entire 28. 30th June 2029 is the time to give show cause notice. 31st December 2029 is the time to give order. Is the time to give order. That is the time limit to give notice and order. Now, in that time limit, what are you going to add? What are you going to add? You are going to add the stay period. The stay period on the notice and the stay period on the order. Whenever there is a stay period, your hands are tied. You cannot do anything. Can you? No, next question will be that. So, can we take stay on the notice? Yes. You can take stay on the notice. You can take stay on the order. Stay is not always on the order. The moment you get to know that this officer is going to give you a notice because of the grudge he has against you, you can go to courts and take stay on the notice also. So, stay period is excluded. Stay period is, so don't go with this exclusion and all. Calculate the time limit that you work out. 2 years, 9 months, 3 years, 4 years, 6 months, 5 years. Calculate normally. Add stay period. Add stay period. So, what you do, better calculate the normal time limit, then add stay period. Add stay period. Very simple way. Stay period of notice is added, stay period of order is added. By the way, the moment stay on notice is given, there's no question of order. So, either the stay of notice for giving notice, and if the stay is removed, then you can give order. If at all the notice is given, but order cannot be given. That's a stay on order. So you are going to add stay period on the order for for calculating the time limit for giving the order. Stay period is added back. Stay period is added back. Now, one thing is that only in case of order, it is not there in the case of notice. Let us first understand that, which is discussed elsewhere as well. If at all there is an issue on which appellate authority or appellate tribunal or the high court has given its decision, which means the matter is already pending, but not for your case. It is pending for some other case, some other proceedings, not for the company's case, but for some other company's case. Who has decided? Appeals. Either first appeals or second appeals or third appeals. Either first appeals or second appeals or third appeals has decided. And if first appeals has decided, the matter is pending in second appeals. If second appeals has decided, the matter is pending in third appeals. If third appeals has decided, the matter is pending in the last appeal, that is Supreme Court. Right? And an appeal against that has been preferred to the next level. If it is order of appellate authority, appeals at appellate tribunal. If it is order of appellate tribunal, appeals is at High Court. If it is order of High Court, appeals is at Supreme Court. This point we have already discussed. It is an indirect stay. It is an indirect stay. Now, the period between the order of these two things, which means first appeals order to second appeals order, or second appeals order to third appeals order, or third appeals order to last appeals order, or directly first appeals order to last appeals order, the matter is going to go till Supreme Court. That you have to add back. But this adding back of which we call it as indirect stay is only for order, not for notice. It's not for notice. Read it carefully. And this we practically experience when we see in our practice. So what will happen? They will open the show cause notice. The same is pending. They know that this issue is already pending in some other company's case at higher appeals. But they have to open the show cause notice. So what they will do? They will issue show cause notice and keep in a book called as logbook. Obviously not find in the isometal. Practically they'll keep it in a logbook and they'll refer it that this is pending. The order is not being issued because similar matter in some other company's case is there at higher level. By the way, who are we talking about? We are talking about adjudicating authority. All the appeals authority are higher than this adjudicating authority. Can this adjudicating authority pass an order? No. Though it is not for this company's case, it is for some other company's case, same issue. What they'll do? They'll give notice, keep it pending, keep it in log order. So notice to be given mandatorily. But order will be on hold. And that hold is because there will be an extension in time limit for passing the order. There is no extension for notice. You have to give notice on time in such cases. But you can wait and give order leisurely after that some other company's case appeals is decided. So this extension is only and only for order, not for show cause notice. Now, the moment you are not following these limits, you cannot give any show cause notice and all. Forget about show cause notice and all. If at all these limits have gone, nothing can be done. Nothing at all. All the limits that we have discussed, if these limits have passed, they cannot do anything. Though that's a clear-cut liability against assessee, they are not in a position to do anything. Now, one more special point, where any order you are required to pass because of the direction of appellate authority or appellate tribunal or high court or Supreme Court, which means you are not interested in passing the order. You are passing the order because of the direction of appellate authority or appellate tribunal or high court or Supreme Court, then that order should be issued within 2 years. At a special time for order, then that order should be issued within 2 years. Notice was already opened. Notice was already opened in time. But you have passed an order for a particular amount. Now, appellate authority, appellate tribunal or high court or Supreme Court has increased that amount. You are going to now increase that amount because of the order of appellate authority, appellate tribunal, high court or Supreme Court. For that extra amount, you have to convert that into order within 5. See, Notice was only for 1 crore. You were in a position to give order only for 1 crore. Now appeals have increased the amount. Again you have to give an opportunity. So they are telling that because of higher authority is happening, within 2 years, for the higher amount also convert that into order. So that is given here. Now all the other small aspects, and more importantly the penalty aspects. This is 73, 74, all the important aspects we have discussed except for the penalty aspect. So what will happen with your penalty? Please understand that for understanding penalty, you split your timeline into 4 cases. Before show cause notice, within 30 days of show cause notice, after 30 days of show cause notice, but within 30 days of demand order, finally after 30 days of demand order. So it is before show cause notice, within 30 days of show cause notice, after 30 days of show cause notice, but within 30 days of demand order, after 30 days of demand order. If at all it is a bona fide case. If you pay the dues, before show cause notice, no penalty. We are talking about a bona fide case, section 73. Bona fide case, section 73. No penalty. Even if it is within 30 days of show cause notice, no penalty. If it is after 30 days of show cause notice but within 30 days of demand order, 10% of tax or ITC or rupees 10,000, whichever is higher. The same will be there in the last case. After 30 days of demand order, 10% of tax or interest or rupees 10,000, whichever is higher. If at all it is a fraudulent case, section 74. Before show cause notice, 15% penalty. After show cause notice within 30 days, 25%. 25. When I tell 15%, 25%, that is all tax. After 30 days of show cause notice, before 30 days of demand order, 50% penalty of tax amount. And after 30 days of demand order, penalty is equal to 100% of tax amount. Please understand that the benefit of this reduced penalty will be received if you pay full tax, full interest and reduced penalty. Full tax, full interest and reduced penalty within that time. Either before show cause notice or within 30 days of show cause notice or within 30 days of demand order. Full tax, full interest plus the reduced penalty. You cannot just pay reduced penalty and take the benefit. You have to pay full tax, full interest and reduced penalty within this particular time. So that is given here. So that is exactly explained here. Now, other aspects which you have not discussed. If at all you have paid all the amount, all the proceedings will be deemed to be dropped. But when you talk about all the proceedings shall be deemed to be dropped, it will not include your criminal proceedings under section 132. Also, if for the same proceedings, notice is issued to the main culprit as well as the co-culprit, which means the main culprit is the owner of the goods, co-culprit is say transporter or warehouse keeper. If the main culprit pays the entire amount under section 73, 74, automatically proceedings and against the co-culprit in section 122 and 125 will be dropped. If main culprit is closing all the dues under section 73, 74, against co-culprit there will be only penalty. Either a specific penalty under section 122 or a residual penalty under section 125. That automatically will be concluded. Now understand that at times officer will give DRC 01A before giving show cause notice. That will result into some benefit. Why? If you are informed before giving show cause notice, opportunity before show cause notice, you can take the benefit of reduced penalty, and this benefit will be there only in fraud case. This benefit will not be there in bona fide case. If you are given DRC 01 before giving DRC 1, which means show cause notice, before giving show cause notice, what will happen? If it is a bona fide case, it really does not make any difference. Why? Whether you pay the dues before show cause notice or within 30 days of show cause notice, there's no penalty. But it will make a difference when it is 74. If you are given an opportunity before notice is given, you might pay all the tax, all the interest plus 15% penalty. If that opportunity was not given, what will happen? You end up paying all the tax, all the interest plus 25% penalty. So there would be savings of penalty, but that savings will be only in fraudulent case, not in bona fide case. And where the appellate authority or appellate tribunal, where the appellate authority or the appellate tribunal or court modifies the tax amount, automatically interest and penalty will stand modified. The moment they change the tax, see what is the base of interest and penalty? Tax. The tax changes, automatically interest and penalty will get changed. And one important clarification, where there is a penalty which is imposed in section 73, 74, you cannot have any other penalty in series of section 122, 123, 124, 125. Other penalties cannot be there. If there is already a penalty which is given to you under section 73, 74, you cannot have other penalties. You cannot have other penalties. So that is all and all about your section 73 and section 74. The monetary limits and circulars are not so critical. Who can issue show cause notice for what amount and all, not relevant. Now what we will do is, we'll see the other provisions of your demand. We are still seeing demand. The main provisions were section 73, 74 read along with section 75, which is common provisions for both. Now 76 and 77 are the other provisions. 76, you can call it as extreme fraud case. Extreme fraud case. What is this extreme fraud case? There is a levy of tax which is 5%. You are collecting 12%, but you are paying levies of 5, you are paying 5. If you look in that manner, you are actually fulfilling, discharging your liability. Government wanted 5, you are paying 5%. But if you look from other angle, in the name of government, you are cheating the customer. In the name of government, you are cheating the customer. From the customer, you are taking extra amount, 7%. That 7% technically cannot be called as tax. It is surplus amount. You are falling under the category of extreme fraud. So it is not even section 74, it is section 76. For two reasons. It is an extreme fraud case, one reason, and the main reason, technically it is not tax. It is a surplus amount. Now for the surplus amount, you need to understand that there is no time limit for giving notice under section 76. This notice can be given after 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, 20 years. You cannot at times celebrate in front of the officer telling that I have cheated a lot of customers. Now you cannot do anything because 5 years has gone. Now officer will tell, okay, tell me the story, what you have done. No, you wanted 5%, I paid you 5%, but I collected 12. Now come sit here. Welcome. You are not covered by section 73, 74, you are covered by section 76. I can recover that amount even after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Even when you are gone, I can recover the amount from your successor. So don't worry, that recovery will still happen. There's no time limit for show cause notice. Notice will be given, representation will be done. Finally, you will get an order under section 76, which is for surplus amount. For order, they give a time limit within 1 year, excluding the stay period, which means at the stay period, excluding the stay period. For notice, there is no time limit. You open the matter, then after giving notice, close it within 1 year. Close it within, you can give notice after 15 years. After you have given the notice, please give an order within 1 year plus stay period. Now, what will be asked from you is not only that surplus amount, but also interest on that surplus amount right from the date you collected from the customer till you are paying to the government. Till you are paying to the government. And see the irony. Don't you think that it is an extreme fraud case? So, extreme action should be taken. Interest is huge. Don't stop that. Penalty is bigger. No relaxation. 100% penalty. No question of 15, 25, 50 and all. 100% penalty. So, it is an extreme fraud case for surplus amount. No time limit for notice. For order after you give notice within 1 year plus stay period. You have to pay that surplus amount with interest right from the date you collected till you are making the payment. Penalty 100%, no relaxation. Now, don't you think that this surplus amount, if it is not belonging to the associate, it does not even belongs to government. It does not even belongs to. So, what government has to do? Government has to give a notification, advertise in newspaper that this associate is a pakka fraud associate, collected extra amount from all the customers, those who have purchased from this company from such and such date, you may apply for refund. So the person who have borne the incidents can go and apply for the refund. Can go and apply for the refund. If it is a balance amount is there, unclaimed amount is there, it will go to Consumer Welfare Fund. But one more special point that they have recognized and put here is, if at all this assessee finally finds that during the tax period, the tax rate was neither 5 nor 12, it was an ad hoc rate, say 10%. You can have special rates. He thought it is 5, he collected 12 but paid 5. But finally it is found that no, it was 10%. He's already collected extra. That out of extra 7% collection, that 5% collection can be adjusted against tax payable. So he has to pay that 5%. He has to pay that 5%. Already that is included in surplus amount. So surplus amount was totally 7%. Adjust that. He has to pay entire 7%. But now that 7%, 5% he can adjust against his tax dues. Balance 2%. What will happen? Either it will be given as refund to the persons who have paid extra. If not, it will go to Consumer Welfare Fund. So it will work out in 3 steps. If the same assessee has got dues for the same period, for the same transactions, he'll first adjust against those dues, because now surplus amount will get converted to tax amount. Balance amount, which is technically surplus amount, what will happen? It will be given back to the customers who have borne the burden. If not, it will go and sit in the small pocket of the government from Consolidated Fund of India to Consumer Welfare Fund. So that is all about your section 76. Now what is your section 77 read along with section 19? Section 77 of your CGST Act read along with section 19 of your IGST Act. It talks about a very special scenario where you thought that the transaction is interstate supply, whereas it was intrastate supply. There was an intrastate supply which you thought it is interstate supply. So what tax you have paid? We'll summarize this in a very simple example because it works in the same manner. Both section 77 of your CGST Act read along with section 19 of your IGST Act. There was a transaction of 10 lakhs which attracted GST at 18%. So there was a transaction of 10 lakhs which attracted 18% GST. Actually, location of supplier was Tamil Nadu, place of supply was say Kerala. What tax should have been there? IGST. But what you did? You paid CGST 9% and SGST 9% amounting to 90,000. What you should have paid? IGST. What you should have paid? IGST 1,80,000. This was actual payable. What you have paid in reality? CGST, SGST. This you realized after say 2-3 years, and in refund correspondingly they have added the relevant date. In refund correspondingly they have recognized that relevant date. You realize this after say 2-3 years. 2-3 years. This transaction happened somewhere in say April 2023. You found out this error somewhere in say December 2025. Now what are you required to do? Two-step process. Step 1, step 2. What are you required to do? Step 1, pay the correct tax. Step 1, pay the correct tax. What was your correct tax? Pay IGST 1,80,000. Important point, without interest. To this extent, government is very logical. Government is telling that we got the revenue right in the beginning. Now we are not going to collect interest because you have already paid the tax, but wrong liability. It is not wrong cash ledger. It is wrong liability. You determined your liability wrong. It was not cash ledger wrong payment. You determined your liability. In simple language, this entire case is wrong determination of liability, not wrong depositing cash ledger. This is wrong determination of liability. First, you pay the correct tax. Second, you apply for refund of CGST 90,000 and SGST 90,000, and refund time limit will be 2 years. Will be 2 years. From what date? From the date of payment of IGST, not from the transaction date. Very logical date. From the date of payment of IGST, which means if you have paid your IGST in December 2025, after that you have 2 years time to go for refund. Because if you take the base as April 2023, refund time limit is gone. Refund time limit is gone. So what are the 2 steps? First, pay the correct tax without interest. Second, apply for refund of wrongly paid tax. Apply for refund of wrongly paid tax. And correspondingly, refund, they talk very logically that when you're applying for refund, this 2 years will start from the date of payment of the correct tax, not from the transaction date, not from the normal date. It will start from the date of payment of correct tax. So that is all about section 77 of your CGST Act, read along with section 19 of your IGST. It could have been an ulta scenario as well. So therefore you find in both the places. So this basically covers our first part, demand. Now talking about your recovery, section 78 and section 79 are the main provisions of recovery. Section 77 and section 78 are the main provisions for your recovery. Main provisions for your recovery. Now please understand that after you get a demand order, what are the options available with you? Either pay or go for appeals. Not working, I guess. Is my voice audible till the end? Okay. Either pay or go for appeals. Till how much time they are going to wait? 3 months. 3 months is the time for assessee to go for appeals. 3 months is the time for assessee to go for. That's 1 month extensions and extension period. But what is the base time limit? So within 3 months, they have to either pay or decide and go for appeals. If at all they don't do any of these 2 things, if they don't do any of these 2 things, recovery will start. If they have gone for appeals, nothing to worry. There will be automatic stay on the recovery, because the moment you pay the pre-deposit, there is automatic stay. But if you don't pay, don't go for appeals, then there will be recovery proceedings. At times, proper officer can tell that I want a lesser time. At times, he will tell that no, recovery 3 months is bigger time. This assessee may run away. Please reduce this time. At times, he may start recovery before the expiry of 3 months, but he has to take the permission of higher officer and records the reason in writing. But if you don't pay nor go for appeals within 3 months, direct recovery will start under section 79. Please understand what do you mean by recovery. Recovery means attaching all your assets. All your assets. If at all there is any refund due to you or money owed to you, either under GST or by under any other law or under with any other government. What is meant by specified officer? It is amount is there with the officer of central government, state government, union, territory, local authority, board, corporation, company owned or controlled by government. Which means government is to give you something, not necessarily under GST Act, under any law. It might be even your income tax refund. It might be even your dues from government because you have sold to the government. You might be selling to the government. They can even adjust from that. You might be a supplier to the government, which means government happens to be one of your customer and government is to pay you a big amount. Now, when you are defaulting in paying the dues, GST department of the government can inform that government company telling that don't pay this dues to this assessee. He has to pay GST dues. So what is for us? This will come in your datas. See, all these items, basically the first point items are going to come in your current assets. Refund receivable or money receivable from government will come in your current assets. Or detain and sell your goods. Not only movable property but also immovable property, which means now they are starting attaching your stock in trade, which is under current assets, also your immovable property, which is there in your fixed assets. Not necessarily immovable property. It can be your movable property, which is there in your fixed assets, which is there under your fixed assets. If that is not possible, they will give garnish notice to your debtors, to your depositors. So if you have deposit in bank, if you are sundry debtors, they will give garnish notice to all of them and tell that don't give this amount to the assessee, pay to us. And if they don't comply, they will be treated as defaulted to the extent of that amount. If they have tried everything, if you see this point, you will find that they have tried attaching all your assets to the extent of going to your surety, to the extent of going to the liquidator. If at all company is under liquidation, they try everything. They have tried everything. Finally, if they are not able to recover the amount, what they'll do? They'll go to collector, magistrate, court. Collector, magistrate, court. Tell the collector, if at all this person is having any property in this place and not in presently but in future, you can collect it as arrears of land revenue, which is crown debts. So collector will take action if time comes. They'll go to the magistrate and ask the magistrate to impose fine on this particular assessee. They'll go to the court and ask for an order or decree against this particular assessee that he is to pay so and so amount to the government and issue it everywhere. So this is the last resort. This basically is the last resort. They are not able to recover it. They don't find any other assets. So they'll go to the collector, magistrate and court and try to get an order against this assessee. Right? Trying to attach all the properties. They don't stop here. If at all you're talking about distinct persons, this we have already discovered. So distinct person recovery can be done in a different state. If there is a recovery proceedings happening in Tamil Nadu and you are having registration even in Maharashtra, so Maharashtra government can also collect. And when other government is collecting, they have taken care of it. If there are central government dues unpaid, state government can collect it. State government dues are pending, central government collect it and they will give it to the corresponding government. They will give to the corresponding government. They will try to recover as far as possible. So that is section 79. Now section 80 is a special provision where assessee accepts that he has to pay the dues. He is okay. He is telling that yes, I have to pay the dues, but I don't have the amount. I am under financial crunch. I am under financial difficulty. So what he'll do? He'll make an application to the commissioner asking for deferment or installment facility. Either deferment or installment facility. Now, Who are all eligible and who are all not eligible? For any dues other than self-assessed dues, you can ask for extension and you can ask for installment facility up to 24. First point, you cannot ask for this deferment facility or installment facility for self-assessed dues. For self-assessed dues. So for self-assessed dues, not possible. Second point, you cannot ask this, you cannot go for this deferment or installment if taxable person has already defaulted payment in GST laws for which recovery, there is another recovery which is going on. Already there he has made a default. For an assessee in default, this facility will not be open. This facility will not be open. If taxable person was not allowed this facility in previous year there was some other recovery. He already tried previous year for installment or deferment and he was not given that facility. Current year also he will not be given. Because the record shows that previous year when he was not allowed to go for deferment or installment, there is something wrong. There is something wrong. Don't allow even current year. Or the amount is a very small amount, petty amount. Up to 25,000. Small amount. Please don't come for deferment or installment. So what are the cases where you cannot go for deferment or installment? Self-assessed dues, assessee in default, not allowed this facility in last year, amount is less than 25,000. You will not be allowed this deferment or installment facility. Now, understand that this deferment facility or installment facility is subject to interest, which means the more you defer, the more you pay in installment, your interest will keep on increasing. So, interest will not be reduced. Your interest will keep on increasing. Now, while filing, before passing the order, the commissioner will call for a report from the jurisdictional officer to check whether he is financially capable or not capable. It should not be a scenario where the company is fully solvent. The company is a cash rich company, like a restaurant company or a software company, cash rich company, but it is purposefully going for this deferment or installment facility. And this will be discretionary order of the commissioner. We have already discussed in section 121 that it is a non-appealable order. It is a non-appealable order. And even after giving this facility, if the assessee fails to pay any one installment before the timeline, you are thrown out of this facility and the entire amount will be recovered without any further notice. You are allowed this installment or deferment facility. You paid one installment after the due date. Finished. Finished. You are totally thrown outside this provision of section 80. Entire balance dues will be recovered without any notice. Now, that is section 80 for you. Section 81, which is for a pakka fraudulent person. 81 and 83 is for a pakka fraudulent guys. Now, before we see section 81 and 83, what is 82? 82 tells a very simple language. They will try to safeguard their interests. Notwithstanding anything contrary contained in any law except IBC code, GST dues will have the first charge on the property of the assets, which means after banks and financial institutions, GST dues will take the first charge. If at all a company is under liquidation, first settle your banks and financial institution dues. Then it will be the chance of GST dues. GST dues. That is given here. That is section 82. Now what is section 81? Section 81 talks about transfer of property to be void in certain cases. Assume that a managing director of a company, say Vijay Mallya, knows that his company is going to go under default and he is going to have huge dues. Before order comes, he sells all his company's properties. Now, what government is trying to tell? If the properties are sold by such companies, the transfer which happened will be treated as null and void, and they can recover the dues from the person who has purchased those properties in terms of taking back that property. So what is the provision? Where a person, after the amount has become due from him, what he does? Willfully creates a charge on the property or sells that property, whether by way of sale, mortgage or any other way, with a clear-cut intention to cheat the government. To cheat the government. Such charge or such sale will be treated as void. And such recovery can happen from the buyer of that property to the extent of that particular property. But there is an exception. What is that exception? If the buyer proves that he has taken the previous permission of the officer, he'll tell that I was not aware of that particular thing. I took the previous permission of the officer. I asked whether this company is having any dues or not. I repeatedly wrote letters to the officer, but he did not respond. And that means that I was within my rights to purchase that property. I knew that he is selling the property for a lesser price. I had a doubt. I cross-checked with all the departments of the government, mainly income tax department and GST department, to check whether he is trying to evade tax. And I did not get any response. In my final letter, I wrote that I am going to purchase this property. I indirectly took the previous permission of the officer. You cannot touch me now. You cannot take this property from the buyer now. Or he tells that he paid adequate consideration in good faith. He did not purchase for a lesser amount. He paid it for a fair amount in good faith. And he was not at all aware of that recovery proceedings against that assessee. Two criteria. Rather three criteria. He paid adequate consideration. He did not purchase for a lesser price. Fair price. Good faith. Was totally not aware of any such proceedings against the assessee. Then buyer will not be touched. See, where will be a problem, right? Most of the buyers will never communicate to the officer. And most of the buyers, the moment they get it for a lesser price, they will not satisfy the criteria here. Why? The criteria here is it should be paid for a adequate consideration. The moment you know that the property worth which is 10 crores, you are trying to get for 2 crores, it is very clear that you are aware that something is fishy. Still you went ahead and purchased that property. So you will not be covered in this area. So that is section 81 for you. Now 83. 83 is again against a Paka fraud person. Now 83 comes in a scenario after proceeding starts but before order comes. In between notice and order. In between notice and order, there is a provisional attachment on the property to protect the interest on the revenue. Very, very simple logic. Government or the department fears that this assessee will run away. Order is not yet passed. Order is not yet passed, but proceedings are going on. Only after order is passed, dues will be finalized. Order is not yet passed, but officer has a strong feeling that this assessee will run away. So what he does, after initiation of any proceedings, be it assessment proceedings, be it inspection, search, seizure, arrest proceedings, be it demand and recovery proceedings. So proceedings has started. Commissioner feels to protect the interest of the revenue, provisional attachment of property is required, including provisional attachment of bank account, that of a taxable person, even of a co-culprit, not only of the main assessee but also of the co-culprit under section 122(1)(a). Even that of co-culprit, what they'll do? They'll provisionally attach your properties, including freezing your bank account. Please understand, proceedings are started but not ended. It is between this time that provisional attachment is done. If order is passed, it is not a case of provisional attachment. It is a case of final attachment. And if it is a case of final attachment, you are not seeing the provisions of section 83. You are directly going and attaching under section 79. Provisional attachment will not make government the owner of the property. Owner of the property is still the assessee. But assessee cannot deal with that property, goods or immovable property. For hazardous goods or perishable goods, there will be an option given. What option will be given? For hazardous goods or perishable goods, it will be released either on payment of lower of market value of the property or the dues that may be there. Not dues that are there. That dues may be there. So if it is hazardous property or perishable property, they cannot keep it. So they'll give an option to the assessee. See, we cannot keep it now. Give an option. What you can do? Provisionally, this is not the final tax amount. This is a deposit that you're paying. What amount you have to pay? Market value of that property or the dues that may be there, whichever is lower, not whichever is higher. Whichever is the market value of the property may be 10 crores. The dues that may be there may be only 2 crores. So you have to deposit only 2 crores. If that person is not depositing that dues, what officer will do? Sell those goods and adjust against the dues. The property is worth 10 crores. The dues are only for 2 crores. They will not sell the entire property. They will sell only 2 crores worth property and balance 8 crores property. They will give it back to the assessee. Now, can the assessee ask for release of property? A copy of that provisional order will be given to the person. He may file an objection that his property is not liable to be attached, and commissioner may, after an opportunity, release it. See the irony. There's no principle of natural justice in the beginning. First they'll attach it. Then you come. I hear your case. That's no opportunity, by the way. It cannot be called as an opportunity. It has been attached. Then you come. I'll hear to you. If I am satisfied, I'll release that property. If I am satisfied, I'll release that property. Or you may not come. Commissioner himself is suo motu satisfied that this provisional attachment is not required. He may release that property. Or last possible scenario. You made an objection. Commissioner did not take any action. Commissioner suo motu was not satisfied. But 1 year is over from provisional attachment. A very, very important point. After all, you are playing with the rights of the assessee. You did not pass a final order. They are indirectly telling the department that convert that proceedings into final order within 1 year. Then if you want, you go for final attachment. Don't harass the assessee by way of provisional attachment for more than 1 year. For more than 1 year. So that is section 83 for you. And finally, when you talk about section 84, it tells that if government dues are increased by appeals, they are increased by appeals. We have already discussed this indirectly. If they are increased by appeals, for the increased dues, again a notice has to be given and an order has to be passed within 2 years. For the original dues, recovery will start. If the due was 1 crore and higher authority made it 5 crores, 1 crore direct recovery. Balance 4 crores, again notice of demand and convert into order within 2 years. Within 2 years. If the government dues are decreased, 5 crores is now made to 1 crore. Now recovery can happen only of 1 crore. Recovery can happen only of 1 crore. That too without any notice. Direct recovery. Direct recovery. So that is section 84. So that is all and all about your demand, the first part, and recovery, the second part. Yes, we'll start with your appeals and revision. When you talk about your appeals and revision, please understand that there are 2 different chains of appeals and revision. One for the assessee, one for the officer, where the direction will be given by the commissioner. The direction will be given by the commissioner. Now, appeals will come only after the order of adjudicating authority. Order of adjudicating authority. Who are all adjudicating authorities? You see the entire wing, you'll be having Government of India, Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue, then the main administrative wing, CBIC for indirect taxes, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. Below that, you'll be having 2 wings. One is investigative wing, which is now called as intelligence wing. Technically now it is called as intelligence wing, and administrative wing. Now the officers therein will range start from Principal Chief Commissioner, then Chief Commissioner, Principal Commissioner, then Commissioner. In front of Commissioner, with having the same type of powers, there will be Commissioner appeals, but that Commissioner appeals will be hearing only appeals. Then there will be Additional Commissioner, Joint Commissioner, also Additional Commissioner, Joint Commissioner appeals. Then there will be Deputy Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner, finally Inspectors. Starting from Principal Chief Commissioner till the Inspectors. This is your administrative wing, which will be giving you notices, etc., etc. That is something called as intelligence wing. Intelligence wing, which may come for your inspection, which may do some scrutiny, audit. All these activities can be done by your intelligence wing. Now, when you talk about intelligence wing, the nomenclature differs there. That is Principal Director General first, followed by Director General. Then you have Principal Additional Director General, which is equivalent to Principal Commissioner. Then Additional Director General. Till now you'll find Director General, Director General, Director General. Then below that you have for your administrating wing, Joint Commissioner, Additional Commissioner. Here it will be Joint Director, Additional Director, Deputy Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner, Deputy Director, Assistant Directors. Finally, Inspectors. Now, orders are only passed by administrative wing. Though the matter can be taken up by intelligence wing, finally they will pass on the matter to your administrative wing and they will pass the orders. So you have the orders of adjudicating authority. Now, if the order is against assessee, what assessee will do? He'll go for appeals. What is the first level? What is the first level? Appellate authority. Second level is appellate tribunal. Appellate tribunal. Third level, High Court. Fourth level, Supreme Court. Now, when assessee is applicant, which means I'm talking about the assessee person, taxable person or the registered person or the assessee, we'll call it as assessee. Now, first level is appellate authority and the time limit to file an appeals in appellate authority is 3 months plus 1 month. 3 plus 1. For assessee, it is 3 plus 1. If assessee loses the case, sir, he'll go to appellate tribunal. Appellate tribunal. That after the order of appellate authority, if he wants to challenge in the next level, appellate tribunal, it is 3 plus 3 months. Basically, time limit for assessee is 3 months. In the first level, it is 3 plus 1 month extension. Second level, it is 3 plus 3 months extension. Then if he is not satisfied, then he can go to High Court, but High Court will only take question of law, not question of fact. So it is 180 days. Not satisfied with High Court, go to Supreme Court. Not satisfied with the Supreme Court, nothing. Nothing. Either suicide or change the law. If you have powers like Reliance Limited, now even Adani Limited, please change the law. Please change the law retrospectively. Please change the law retrospectively. There's no other option for you. Now, surprisingly, you'll find that the first level order, that is officer's own order, is against the department. Can department challenge its own order? Yes. First level. Now, department challenging the own order first is totally, though it is there in every law, but understand that you are challenging your own order. Might be they are trying to tell that we are trying to supervise our own junior officer's order. But the irony is, at the first level, department is having 2 trains to catch. If they miss the first train, don't worry. They have the second train. For assessee, there is only 1 train to catch. For department, in the first level, they can go for appeals to appellate authority. Do you think the time limit will be lesser or more? For assessee, for the first level, what is the time limit? 3 plus 1. Here it is 6 plus 1. Wait, it's not actually 6 plus 1. If they miss the time limit, don't worry. They can go to revision authority. They are creative. They create something called as revision authority. If you miss that train of 6 months, don't worry. You can go to revision authority, second train, which will take up the case after 6 months time is over. But before, simple language. Department is having 3 years time to challenge its own order. Within 6 months, plus 1 month extension, 6 plus 1. Go to appellate authority, 6 plus 1 month. If you miss the train, don't worry. After 6 months, but within 3 years, go to revision authority. Go to revision authority. Then next, if department loses the case there, they can also go to appellate tribunal. Whether time will be less or more? More. For assessee, it was 3 plus 3. Here it is 6 plus 3. 6 plus 3. See, assessee, it is 3 plus 1, 3 plus 3. First level, second level. For officer, it is 6 plus 1, 6 plus 3. But in the first level, there is an extra time. After 6 months, but up to 3 years. Revisional authority. Then if they lose at appellate tribunal, can they challenge it to High Court? Yes. Within 180 days plus extension, they can challenge to High Court. Finally, if they lose at High Court, by the way, High Court and Supreme Court can take up only question of law. So if they lose at High Court, they are going to go to Supreme Court. If they lose there, they have nothing to worry. They'll start another case. They'll start another case. Now, understand that when you talk about your tribunal. If tribunal is taking up a case which involves place of supply, directly, place of supply matters, by the way, will be taken by national or regional bench of the tribunal. There will be two bench. One is national bench, one is state bench. Otherwise called as state bench is otherwise called as area bench, national bench is otherwise called as regional bench. So if the place of supply is that matter will be taken by national bench. From tribunal, without wasting any time, the matter will directly go to Supreme Court. High Court will not come in picture in any of the cases. From tribunal directly to Supreme Court, only one possibility. What is that possibility? The question involves place of, the question is that of question of law dealing with place of supply. Dealing with directly from tribunal to Supreme Court. Now, first let us talk about your appellate authority and appellate tribunal comparing vis-a-vis. Appellate authority, then we'll take a provisional authority. Provisional authority is only applicable for department. If they have missed the first train, they have a second train. So, we will not take revisional authority now. We will compare appellate authority vis-a-vis appellate tribunal. First appeals versus second appeals. We will have a comparison simultaneously. First appeals versus second appeals. In first appeals, there is an order of adjudicating authority. If it is not in favor of the assessee will go for appeals. If it is not in favor of department, commissioner will ask the lower officer to file an appeals against its own order. Now, when you talk about your appellate tribunal, how the matter goes to appellate tribunal, second level. Either there is an order of appellate authority or order of revision authority. That second train. Order of revision authority. That second train, the doors of which are open only for the department. So there is an order of appellate authority or the order of revision authority. If it is against the assessee will go for appellate tribunal. If it is against the officer, commissioner will ask the lower officer to file an appeals in appellate tribunal. So that is the comparison. Second, if assessee is going for appeals, the time limit comparison. Let us even make your time limit comparison. What is the time limit for assessee to file an appeals? What is the time limit? First appeals, 3 plus 1 months. For the officer, first appeals, 6 plus 1. 6 plus 1. Second appeals, for the assessee, 3 plus 3. For the officer, 6 plus 3. 6 plus 3. Again, when you talk about assessee going for appeals, whether it is first appeals or second appeals, assessee has to make the payment of pre-deposit. Assessee has to make the payment of pre-deposit. Now, what is the amount of pre-deposit? Whatever is accepted by the assessee. Whatever is accepted by the assessee. Pay 100% of all the dues, be it tax, interest, penalty, pay 100%. Pay 100%. Whatever is disputed, challenged, pay only 10%, that too of disputed tax. Disputed tax, not interest, penalty, not disputed tax. If at all there is a 5 crore demand, if I am accepting 1 crore, with respect to 1 crore, pay entire 1 crore plus interest plus penalty fully. Balance 4 crores. Pay only 10% of 4 crores, which is 40 lakhs. Only 10% of the tax. No interest penalty. Only 10% of the tax. And that too, there is the upper limit. What is the total upper limit in the second case? See, understand that the first part is actually not pre-deposit. First part is payment of your dues. Actually, pre-deposit is only this portion. Though in calculation you will take both, but actually pre-deposit is only the second portion. What is the upper limit for the second portion? Disputed dues. The upper limit for the second portion is CGST maximum 25 crores, SGST maximum 25 crores, IGST maximum. If it is CGST maximum 25 crores, SGST maximum 25 crores, IGST maximum 50 crores. So that is the upper limit of pre-deposit for the disputed dues. For the admitted dues, pay fully. Tax, interest, penalty, even if it is running to hundreds of crores, pay fully. Not only tax, but also interest, penalty, any other amount. But when it is disputed, there is a first check. That is, it is 10% only of disputed tax. Forget about interest, penalty. And that too, it is having an upper limit. When I tell upper limit, which means that it should not cross that amount. Maximum CGST can be 25, SGST 25, IGST 50. IGST in the second level, even when assessee is going up appeals, second level, what will happen? Things will change a bit. I mean, second level means you double it. You double it. Whatever is admitted, there no change. By default, it is not at all pre-deposit. It is paying your dues. 100% of tax, interest, penalty. Supposing you took the two first appeals 4 crores. We continued. We started our example with 5 crores. You accepted 1 crore, challenge 4 crores. So first 1 crore you paid entire 1 crore plus interest plus penalty, everything. 4 crores you only paid 10% of tax amount. 4 crores, which is 40 lakhs. Now, when you go to second appeals, you said that no. 4 crores is not valid. I know that I have to pay anyways 2 crores, another 2 crores. So 2 crores you accepted in the second appeals. So for the 2 crores, pay everything. Tax, interest, penalty, everything. For the balance 2 crores, pay additional 20. Do not see whether you are paid in first appeals or not. At times, first appeals pre-deposit will not come. Why? You did not file the appeals. It was filed by the department. It will not come. It is an extra additional 20%. Additional 20%. So you are going to pay additional 20% of disputed tax. Doubling. There was 10%, here it is 20% of the disputed tax. So only this technically is pre-deposit. What is the maximum limit? Double it. CGST 50 crores, SGST 50 crores, IGST 100 crores. IGST 100 crores. Right. But that's one is this particular thing, normal case. There is a special case of pre-deposit. If at all you are having an e-waybill penalty under section 129. There is no tax. There is only a penalty under section 129. E-waybill penalty under section 129. If you want to challenge that penalty, you are going for first appeals. Pay only 25% of the penalty. So if the penalty amount is say 10 lakhs, pay 2.5 lakhs. If the penalty amount is 1 crore, pay 25 lakhs. If the penalty amount is 10 crores, pay 2.5 crores. There is no limit and all. Pay 25% of the penalty. Understand that e-waybill penalty will be always challenged only by assessee. Department will never come. It will always be challenged only by assessee. But in the second level, there is no requirement of any additional pre-deposit for e-waybill penalty case. For a normal case, pre-deposit is there at first level as well as second level. For e-waybill penalty, pre-deposit is there only at the first level. 25% of penalty. When you are challenging that in appellate tribunal, there is no additional pre-deposit. There is no additional pre-deposit. Right. Now, when you talk about other differences, when assessee is filing an appeals at the first level, there is no fees. When one assessee is filing appeals at the second level, there is a fees of ₹1,000 for every 1 lakh of demand subject to a maximum of 25,000. By the way, this amount is CGST, copy paste is GST. ₹1,000 for every 1 lakh of demand. So if there is 50 lakhs demand, 1 lakh demand, 1,000, 50 lakhs multiplied by 50. So 1,000 multiplied by 50 is 50,000. But maximum limit is 25,000. Maximum fees can be. Do you have any fees to be paid at first appeals? No. Do you have fees to be paid at second appeals? Yes. You have fees to be paid at second appeals. So you don't have any fees concept in first appeals, but you have a fees concept in second appeals. And another difference, in second appeals, petty cases will not be heard. There's a point where you'll find that small petty cases will not be heard. Appellate tribunal will tell that we are not interested in this case. We are not going to hear that case. Where it is given? Okay. Appellate tribunal will not hear petty cases if the amount involved is This is given only to appellate tribunal. You don't waste your time if the amount involved is only up to 50,000. They might reject the case. But that authority is not there with appellate authority. In appellate authority, even if the matter is pertaining only to 20,000 rupees, they have to hear the case. They have to hear the case. But appellate, two special points now we have discussed. No fees in first level, fees in second level. No rejection in first level, but there can be rejection of petty cases in second level. There can be rejection of petty cases in second level. Now, when you talk about appeal at first level and appeal at second level by department, who will direct them? Commissioner is not satisfied with the legality or the propriety of the decision passed by the order. So, what he is doing? Commissioner is not satisfied with the legality or the propriety of the decision of the adjudicating authority. Therefore, Commissioner is asking to file an appeal to the first appeals. If Commissioner is not satisfied with the legality or the propriety of the order of appellate authority or the revision authority, Commissioner will ask the officer subordinate to file the appeals at the second level. Commissioner will decide whether to file first appeals or whether to file second appeals. But when department is filing the appeals, there is no question of any pre-deposit, there is no question of any fees. Even at second level, there is no question of any fees. If department is challenging whether in first appeals or second appeals, no pre-deposit, no fees. Even at second level, there is no fees. If department is going for appeals, by the way, whether assessee will be required to pay any pre-deposit? No. Assessee is not required to pay any pre-deposit because the judgment was in favor of, order of the judgment was in favor of assessee. Department is going for it. Now, understand certain common points. Whenever assessee goes for appeals at first level or second level, there is an automatic stay on the recovery. There is an automatic stay on the recovery proceedings the moment you pay the pre-deposit. The moment you pay the pre-deposit, there is an automatic stay on the recovery. Officer will not start forceful recovery. Automatically there is a stay. The moment you pay pre-deposit, recovery proceedings will not happen. They will wait till the order of appeals. They have to wait till the order of appeals. Now, other small differences. In first appeals, there are two authorities. One is Commission appeals. One is Joint Commission appeals. Commissioner appeals will hear to the matters where the adjudication of authority was additional commission or joint commission. Their matters will be heard by Commissioner appeals. But if the officer order was lower than the rank of additional commissioner, joint commissioner, which means if the order was that of assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner or superintendent, the matter will be heard by joint commissioner appeals. Joint commissioner appeals. In the same manner, in appellate tribunal, again there are two types, which you have already discussed when we have seen the bird's eye view. What are the two types? National bench or regional bench, state bench or area bench. If the matter deals with place of supply, it will be decided only by national bench or regional bench. If the matter is not dealing with place of supply, if none of the issue deals with place of supply, that matter will be heard by state bench or area bench. What is the other difference? If the matter is heard by state bench or area bench, the case will first go to High Court, then go to Supreme Court. If the matter is dealt by national tribunal or your regional tribunal, which involves place of supply issue, there are 5 issues. One of the issues is place of supply. It will go to national bench or regional bench. The matter will directly then go to Supreme Court. Directly it will then go to Supreme Court. Now, other differences that you have. In first appeals, there is no concept of cross appeals. There is no concept of cross appeals. You don't have any concept of cross appeals. If FCC has filed an appeals, the matter will be heard. If department has filed an appeals, the matter will be heard. But in second appeals, there is a concept of cross appeals, which is technically called as memorandum of cross objection. If SSC has filed an appeals, department will file cross appeals, memorandum of cross objections. If department has filed second appeals, SSC will file memorandum of cross objections within 45 days plus 45 days. The time limit is same for both assessee and department for cross appeals. Getting that point? The concept of cross appeals is there only in appellate tribunal, not there in appellate authority. Not there in appellate authority. Now certain common points. These are all common points. There can be adjournment given both by first appeals and second appeals, maximum 3 adjournments to each of the parties. And if at all there is a bona fide reason, additional grounds can be admitted, extra grounds can be taken up. Those grounds which are not heard at the lower level, they can be taken up. So when you talk about adjournments, maximum 3 adjournments, and when you talk about your additional grounds which can be taken up, it is same for your first appeals and second appeals. 3 adjournments will be there at both the places. Additional grounds may be admitted if it is a genuine case. The ground which was not addressed at the lower level can be taken up directly by appellate authority or taken up directly even by appellate tribunal. Additional grounds can be taken up. These are all common points. Now, another difference that you can clearly find, what will be the order of first appeals? Order of first appeals will be either confirm the order of the adjudicating authority, or modify the order of adjudicating authority, or cancel it. Either tell the amount is same 5 crores, or tell that it is 2 crores, or tell that it is 7 crores. Either keep the same amount, or reduce it, or increase it, or even cancel it. Tell that order was totally illegal. Cancel it. This area is the same even for appellate tribunal. But your appellate authority cannot remand back the case or refer back the case. Cannot remand back the case, or they have to work like adjudicating authority. They have to rework the calculations if at all required. They can confirm, modify, annul or cancel. They cannot refer back. They cannot tell that, oh, you take back the case, rework the case. That authority is there only with appellate tribunal. Appellate tribunal, just like appellate authority, will either confirm, modify or cancel the judgment of appellate authority or revisional authority. In addition to it, it can remand back the case either to appellate authority or revisional authority, or directly even to the officer adjudicating authority. Adjudicating authority. Right. So these are the differences. Additional difference. There's no concept of rectification of error apparent on records in first appeals. But in second appeals, if there is an error which is very much apparent on the face of it, which means there's a clear-cut calculation mistake, they can rectify it within 3 months. They can rectify it within 3 months. They can do rectification within 3 months. This concept of rectification of mistake apparent on records is not there at first appeals. It is there only at second appeals. It is there only and only at second appeals. You don't have the concept of rectification of error apparent on the records in the first appeals. Now please understand whether it is first appeals or second appeals. If assessee wins the case in first appeals or wins the case in second appeals, if at all he has made pre-deposit, that will be refunded with interest. Now for the first time they talk about a logical calculation. Interest when you get, it will be 6% from the date of deposit till the date of refund. Logical calculation. They take mathematics into consideration and tell that, okay, if at all, and this is not only for second appeals, this is even true for your first appeals. If at all assessee wins the case and if he has made the pre-deposit, same thing, it will be refunded back with interest. It will be refunded back with interest. So that is true for both. That is true for both. When this will happen? Appeals was filed by the assessee, won by the assessee, this will happen. If appeals was filed by the department, won by the assessee, there is no question, no pre-deposit, no question of refund. So when appeals was filed by the assessee, pre-deposit was made and won by the assessee, what will happen? There will be refund of pre-deposit. How much? The amount that you have paid on disputed tax, not the admitted amount that technically is not pre-deposit. With interest, what rate? 6%, starting from Date of pre-deposit. Ending till date of refund. Are we talking about admitted dues? No. We are only talking about disputed dues pre-deposit. Disputed dues pre-deposit. When you will get two pre-deposit refunded together in one situation where there was an order against assessee. Assessee went for first appeals. He made pre-deposit. Assessee lost in first appeals. Assessee made second appeals. He again paid additional pre-deposit. He won the case in second appeals. Now there will be refund of two pre-deposit with interest. Interest time limit will be different for first pre-deposit and will be different for the second pre-deposit. From date will be different. From date will be different. So that is the scenario. Now what we have done, we have made our job very simple by comparing both your appellate authority and appellate tribunal reserves. So you will get to know the differences. You will not make silly mistakes. There are evident differences where we have compared and said that okay, this is different in first appeals, this is different in second appeals. Now, first appeals, there is a second chance. In first appeals, there is a second chance which is only for department, which is called as revision authority. There is an order of adjudicating authority which is against the department, and revision authority. Who will be the revision authority? If the order was passed by AC, DC, superintendent, revision authority will be additional commissioner, joint commissioner. If the order itself was passed by additional commissioner, joint commissioner, principal commissioner, commissioner. See, revision authority is not appeals authority. So you will not have bracket appeals. You will have only joint commissioner, additional commissioner if it is a lower officer. If the officer himself is joint commissioner, additional commissioner, then revision will be done by commissioner, principal commissioner. Commissioner, principal commissioner. Now, how this revision authority work will start? Revision authority, suo moto, or on the information received from the commissioner, will call and examine the records, which means it will call for the orders of the officer and see the quality of the orders. See the quality of the orders. When it sees the orders, on examination of orders by revision authority, at times revision authority will take up the matter not because it has examined the orders. The orders were examined by Comptroller and Auditor of General of India, and it found out that either revision authority directly or CAG found out that the orders were against the government, interest of the revenue, plus they were illegal or improper. They were not proper, they were not legal, illegal or improper, or there were material records available which they did not take. Believe me, if this is taken, lot of assessees who try to settle the cases at first appeals just by giving some information. An officer is also a part of the collusion and he agrees to drop the order. This will hit. This will hit. They'll see the orders. They might not find any illegality or improperness, but they'll find that there were clear-cut records available, which means that clear-cut all the details given by the assessee shows the turnover is 100 crores, but the tax payment is clearly made only on 10 crores. Clearly. So what is to be done? Revise the matter. Revise the matter. So that being the case, you are talking about second innings for the department. Second innings for the, basically, they are doubting that their own officer. They know that at times the officer would be in a compromised position to give the orders in favor of the assessee. Might be he has agreed to take something under the table. Therefore, what will happen? They'll take up the matter, and this quality check directly will be normally by revision authority. At times, this quality check can be done by C&AG, Comptroller and Auditor General, and they will tell that, see, the orders are clearly illegal, improper, facts are not considered, against the government, take up the matter for revision. Take up the matter for revision. Now, what will be the action? Revision authority will take the matter of that order and pass the order either enhancing, modifying or annulling. Again, it cannot refer back. See, first appeals cannot refer back. They have to do the work of the adjudicating authority. They cannot refer back the matter. Now, certain orders cannot be revised. These are the cases where you cannot revise the orders. When you see these orders, 2 are basically the time limit. 2 are basically the time limit. If you see the first 2 points, they are basically the time limit. The period of filing appeals before appellate authority is not yet over. 3 years have expired after passing the order, which means they can take up the matter after 6 months, but before 3 years. That is the time limit. They can take up the matter after 6 months of the order of adjudicating authority, but before 3 years of the order of adjudicating authority. Simple language. After 6 months, but before 3 years. After 6 months, but before 3 years. Now, other orders which cannot be taken. We'll discuss about the exclusion later on. If the order is already subject to appeals, the same order is already subject to appeals either at appellate authority or appellate tribunal or high court or supreme court, they cannot take up the matter. It is already pending. It is already pending. They cannot take up the matter. If the order sought to be revised is already a revised order, if this is allowed, what will happen? There is no time limit. Unlimited time. Infinity. They'll revise the order. Again, they'll take up the matter. Another 3 years. Again, they'll take up. There's no end. An already revised order cannot be taken up for second time revision. Or order has been already taken up for revision. You might ask, what is the difference between these 2 points? Second time revision is not allowed. First time revision is already done, or first time revision is still pending. First time revision is already done, or first time revision is still pending. Second time revision not allowed. Second time revision is not allowed. So you cannot go for second revision. The meaning of this is simple. First time revision is already done, or first time revision is taken up but still pending. You cannot go for second revision. You cannot go for second revision. See, what are the simple matters? It can take up the matter after 6 months but before 3 years. Second time revision not possible. If the order is already touched by someone, it cannot touch up the matter. Now, there are certain special points that you need to understand. If the order is already touched by appeals, it cannot take up the matter. But, if at all, the order which is already taken by appeals is issue 1. They have touched issue 1. They have not touched issue number 2. Revision authority in the beginning cannot take up both issue 1 and issue 2. Because it is already pending. What matter is already pending in appeals? Issue 1. Clearly, issue 1 will never be taken up. Issue 2 can be taken up, but they have to wait and watch. They have to wait and watch. Why? Issue 2 can be taken up in between. Additional grounds could have been added. So they have to wait and watch. And don't you think that when they are waiting and watching, the time limit will get over? When they are waiting and watching, for this they have to wait and watch. For that, time limit might get over. So they have taken care of that time limit. They have said that they will be taking this issue to 3 years from the date of the original order, same time within 3 years, or 1 year from the date of order in appeals. 1 year from the date of order in appeals, whichever is later. Whichever is. So what are we trying to understand? If a particular case is already pending in appeals, assume there are 2 issues involved. Issue 1 is already touched by appeals. Revision authority can never take up issue 1. Issue 2 is not touched. As of now, it will not take up. Because at a later point of time, issue 2 could also have been taken up. They will wait and watch. When they wait and watch, they want extra time. What is extra time? After appeals is decided for issue 1, they'll still have minimum 1 year time. They'll still have 1 year. What is the time limit? 1 year time from the appeals order, or 3 years from original order, whichever is later. Whichever is later. They can take up the issue 2. They can take up the not issue 1. Now, when you're calculating this time limit of 3 years, you have to remove the stay order. See, whenever you go for stay, officer is not in a position to do anything. So you remove that stay order. How to remove the stay order? 3 years plus stay time. 3 years plus stay time. Also, if the said order or decision involves an issue in which Appellate tribunal or high court has given its decision in some other proceedings, not in your case, in some other proceedings, and appeal to high court or supreme court is pending in that case. Understand, these are all authorities lower than high court or supreme court. So in this case, the same issue which is not touched in this case, it is touched in some other company's case. It is touched in some other company's case. It has been touched not in the current company's case. It has been touched by some other officer in some other company's case. Now, the same matter is already pending with your high court, or the same matter is already pending with Supreme Court. Can they take up the matter? No. They are all lower authorities. So what they'll do? The time gap between appellate tribunal order and the high court order, or high court order and the Supreme Court order, at times both the orders put together will be added back. Clear? Indirectly, there was an indirect stay. There was no direct stay. It is an indirect stay because they have seen that the same issue was pending in some other companies and the matter is not at first appeals. The matter was there at second appeals or third appeals. From second appeals, it has gone to third appeals, or from third appeals, it has gone to fourth appeals. And all these three are higher than revision authority. They understand that they are lower. So what they do? They'll take the, okay, we'll not touch this case now. Let the higher authorities first decide. Don't you think that the time of 3 years will be running? Don't worry. You take 3 years plus add that indirect stay. What is that indirect stay? From the date of order of appellate tribunal till the date of order of high court, or from the date of order of high court till the date of Supreme Court, or at times from the date of order of tribunal till the date of order of Supreme Court if the matter finally goes up to Supreme Court. Indirect stay. Put in very simple terms. If there is a stay at that time. So that is all about your revisional authority. Now talking about your high court and Supreme Court, understand that in high court and Supreme Court, few special points. First, only a question of law can be taken up by high court and Supreme Court. If the matter involves only question of fact, you have to stop at appellate tribunal. You cannot go to high court and Supreme Court. So what questions can be taken? What questions can be taken up by high court and Supreme Court? They can take up the question only pertaining to question of law. Question of law. So only question of law cases can be taken up. Second, by default in high court and Supreme Court, whenever you are going to go for appeals, you have to pay entire pre-deposit. Entire amount. Entire tax, interest, penalty. But high court and Supreme Court has got extraordinary powers to waive it. By default, you have to pay entire pre-deposit. Now, no more 10%, 20% and all. That too only of tax. Now, you have to pay entire dues. Entire dues. Full tax, full interest, full penalty. Whatever spending, paid fully. But can you get a waiver from high court? Yes. Can you get a waiver from high court? Yes. Can you get a waiver from Supreme Court? Yes. By default, when you go to high court and Supreme Court, department will start recovering it. Department will start recovering the dues. Because pre-deposit has to be made fully. If not, they'll start recovering the dues. Can you make a stay application on the dues? Yes. So normally, appeals to High Court and Supreme Court will be not normal appeals. It will be appeals plus waiver application for pre-deposit plus stay application for recovery. It will be three things. Appeals, along with that waiver application to tell that please allow me not to pay any additional pre-deposit. High Court, Supreme Court may agree or may not agree. Plus stay application to tell that please ask the officer. The moment you waive me pre-deposit, they will start recovering. Please ask the officer not to recover any dues. So these three applications will go. Now, what matters High Court will take? High Court will take up the matters of appellate tribunal being state bench or area bench, not involving the matter of place of supply. Not involving the matter of place of supply. By default, you have to pay all the dues. But High Court has the power to waive the pre-deposit and stay the recovery proceedings. What is the time limit that we have discussed? 180 days plus extension, which is allowed by the High Court. Now, High Court will only allow a case to be heard only if it is a question of law. Initially, First, there will be an admission day. First, High Court will take up the matter and see whether it can be heard or not, and it will formulate a question. It will not decide on the matter. First, it will see whether it involves question of law or not. It will formulate that question. Then it will tell that, okay, I am going to hear only on this question. Only on this particular question, which is technically called as admission day, which means people will file appeals and tell that, please admit my case. Please admit my. So on that day, what will happen? High Court will formulate the question of law and try to understand within a few minutes span of time to whether it involves question of law. If yes, what is the question of law? Only on that matter, High Court will hear the case. And if at all it is found that it does not involve question of law, chapter is closed. It will be rejected. Appeals per se will be rejected. Now, High Court has got extraordinary powers to hear up any other question of law. Not see, High Court and Supreme Court have got extraordinary powers. These are all normal points that they can take up only the question of law which is brought up. But can they bring up another question of law and hear the matter? Yes. They have got extraordinary powers to take up another question of law which none of the parties have taken up. They can formulate another question. They can start hearing. They can start hearing that case as well. Civil Procedure Code will follow, and High Court will tell that it should be a case which is taken by your state bench or area bench, which means it does not involve place of supply. The moment it feels it involves place of supply, it will give to your Supreme Court. And minimum 2 judges should be there in your High Court. It will be decided by majority. If at all there is any difference of opinion, they will refer to another judge. Again, it will be decided by majority. By the way, we missed to see one point of tribunal. Even in tribunal, when you talk about your appellate tribunal, second level, the matter should be heard by minimum 2 members. A single member bench is possible only and only if the amount involved is 5 lakhs, less than or equal to 5 lakhs, and it does not have any question of law, which means it is only question of fact. This I am telling because we have missed this point. This is another difference. When you talk about tribunal second appeals, minimum they should have 2 members. Minimum they should have 2 members bench. Can the matter in second appeals tribunal be heard by a single member? Yes, when 2 criteria: less than or equal to 5 lakhs plus does not involve question of law. And whenever they are hearing minimum 2 members bench, it will be decided by the majority. If at all it is equal, they will refer it to the third member. Now, the members will be split in this particular manner. We will have appellate tribunal case center, appellate tribunal case state. Why it is called as national or regional bench? Because it is controlled by the center. Which matters they will take up, which involves place of supply. There will be president, there will be a technical member of the center, there will be a technical member of the state as well. In your state bench or area bench, which is under the control of state, there will be a judicial member, technical member state and center, and technical member center. One is judicial member, one will be technical member center, and one will be technical member state. Right. This concept is not there in first appeals. One person can hear it. Second appeals, 2 members, exception 1 member in a special case, less than or equal to 50,000 and does not involve, less than or equal to 5 lakhs and does not involve question of law. Question of law. Now, finally, when the matter goes to Supreme Court, look at the importance of Supreme Court. Supreme Court will not at all take a case unless otherwise it is certified by the High Court as a fit case to hear. There are 2 possibilities where the matter will go to Supreme Court. One, directly from the tribunal when it is national bench or regional bench because it involves place of supply. One via High Court. Other cases via, in both the cases, they will call High Court and tell that please check whether it is worth my time. It is worth my time. So High Court will give a certificate that it is a worth case to be heard in Supreme Court. And by default, we have already discussed all these points that when you talk about your High Court and Supreme Court, there is full pre-deposit that you have to pay, but you can ask for a waiver of pre-deposit. And if you are asking for waiver for pre-deposit, make sure that you also ask for stay application. CPC will apply. So those are all the same provisions. There is no specific time limit given here. It will be decided by Supreme Court rules when you're talking about appeals to Supreme Court. If you see, the moment you go higher and higher, mainly when you go to High Court and Supreme Court, they have written lesser and lesser about High Court and Supreme Court. Why? When you're talking about a person who's of very much importance, the moment you try to open your mouth, you'll start talking some nonsense. Better not to talk anything. They will decide for themselves. If you see High Court, they have written something extra. This is all from Barak wordings. When you see Supreme Court, they have written very minimum. Why? They want to make sure that they are capable enough to decide what to do and what not to do. They are not like your appellate authority and appellate tribunal where you tell that you do spoon feeding. Right from the beginning, you tell this do to, not this not to do, etc. etc. They are capable enough of taking care of themselves when you talk about your High Court and Supreme Court. Now, certain other small aspects. You're talking about appeals not to be filed by department in certain cases. This concept is given in your section 120. This entire concept is very simple. It is trying to tell that if department is not filing an appeals because of the monetary limits given by the board, CBIC, it does not mean that department has lost the case. SSC cannot tell that, okay, department accepted that, they have lost the case. So second time when the same matter comes up, department cannot again give notice. That is not the meaning. If department is not filing appeals to higher authorities because of the limit, monetary limit, because of the amount being lesser, because of the instruction by CBIC that if amount is so and so lesser, don't file the appeals. It does not mean that department has agreed to the judgment of the appellate authority or appellate tribunal or High Court or Supreme Court. It does not. The Supreme Court should not be taken. It does not agree to the judgment of appellate authority or appellate tribunal or High Court. It does not mean that. It can be a scenario where department has not gone to the next appeals because of monetary limits, internal controls. So next time, can they take up the same matter? Yes. SSC cannot bring, but they have to prove that last time when the same SSC, same department was involved, why did not department go for the next appeals? SSC will put this point and department has to prove that, see, I was not satisfied with the order of the appeals, but I did not go to the next appeals because of my monetary restrictions, monetary limit restrictions. Then it can be again taken up. Certain non-appealable orders where you cannot go for any appeal. Section 121. Right. You cannot tell that I don't like this officer face, so please transfer the case from one officer to another officer. That you cannot do. You cannot tell that the books are being seized. Therefore, give me relaxation. Why? Because if you see those provisions, you will understand that when your books of accounts are seized, your records are seized, you can always ask for a copy of your records. You can give the copy of your records with signature and take your original books. That is always possible. So you cannot challenge that seizure of your books of accounts case. You cannot challenge an order sanctioning prosecution which will be a criminal case, which will be taken as a criminal case. You cannot do that. You cannot challenge an order under section 80 which is you are begging to the commissioner to allow you to pay the dues in installment. Pay the dues in maximum 24 installments. There, commissioner has given you a particular installment slab. You are telling that I do not like the slab. I want a slab according to me. You cannot challenge that. First of all, you are under begging mode. You are going and telling that please allow me to pay the dues in installment. And commissioner has given you a schedule of installment. Go only according to that. You cannot challenge this. These 4 orders, they are all non-appealable orders. They are all non-appealable orders. Non-appealable orders. When you talk about additional grounds, rather additional grounds can be accepted by anyone. Appellate authority, appellate tribunal, High Court and Supreme Court can anytime have additional grounds. What about additional evidence? What is the difference between additional grounds and additional evidence? Additional grounds is the basis on the basis of which you are going to fight your case. Evidence is a fact supporting your case. You are fighting your case based on 5 grounds. That this order is not proper because of reason number 1, reason number 2, reason number 3, reason number 4, reason number 5. If you bring the 6th reason, that is additional ground. What is additional evidence? For the 3rd ground, you have one more evidence. For the 3rd ground, you have one more evidence. So can you produce additional evidence before appellate authority and appellate tribunal? Here they are not talking about High Court and Supreme Court, because High Court and Supreme Court will not be discussing the case of question of fact. Grounds deals with question of law. Evidence deals with question of fact. So here your discussion is only with respect to appellate authority and appellate tribunal. You did not bring that evidence at the officer level. Now you are bringing at appellate authority. You did not bring that evidence at officer level as well as appellate authority level. Now you are bringing that evidence at appellate tribunal level. You can do it, but there should be certain scenarios. The lower authority refused to admit it. You produced it, but it refused to admit it. The lower authority did not provide you an opportunity. You wanted to give additional evidence, but it did not give you principle of natural justice. The lower authority, normally if it is appellate authority, lower authority is officer. If it is appellate tribunal, lower authority is appellate authority. Either you gave evidence, but it was rejected, or you are not given any chance to give evidence, or the appellant was prevented from sufficient cause to produce it. Which means you never produced it, or you had a sufficient chance, but even then you did not give it. There was no question of any refusal. There was no question of any opportunity. You are given opportunity, but you never produce it. But still you are prevented from sufficient cause. Might be it can be a situation where there is a serious situation in family and you did not have that time to think and give the additional evidence. So you have to prove that I was prevented from sufficient cause. The lower authority gave me full chance. I never produced before lower authority, but I still have sufficient reasons where I was prevented to give the additional evidence, which might have been called by lower authority, but at that point of time I was not in a situation to give that. If that is the case, your additional evidence will be taken up, but only after recording reasons in writing and allowing the lower authority to cross-examine it. Right. Also understand that these two authorities, suo motu, they can always ask for additional evidence. See, this is when you try to give additional evidence. Can they by default ask as additional evidence? Yes, they can always ask. Why this additional evidence is not discussed in your High Court and Supreme Court? Because High Court and Supreme Court has got nothing to do with additional evidence. They will not deal with question of fact. They will deal only with question of. So this point is totally irrelevant for High Court and Supreme Court. Understand it this way. Additional grounds can be taken up by all four, but evidence can be taken up only by first two, not the last two. Now, can you take up your case in appeals through authorized representative? Yes. You can hear your matter through authorized representative before any officer, appellate authority or appellate tribunal, not in High Court and Supreme Court. Again, High Court and Supreme Court, only advocates can take up the matter. Only advocates who can fight a company's case. A relative, employee, advocate who is not barred, CA, CMA, CS who is not barred, even an officer, even a retired officer of Commercial Tax Department, not below the rank of Group B gazetted officer, who has served in that rank for minimum of 2 years, plus after retirement, there is a cooling period of 1 year. So your employee can hear, your relative can hear, take up your matter, your employee, normal profession, that is advocate, CA, CMA, but they should not be debarred. Even officer, retired officer can take up the matter, but there are conditions. A particular rank, Group B gazetted rank, serving there minimum of 2 years, and after retirement or resignation, cooling period at least of. There is actually one more condition. He should not be removed. He should not have been removed from government service. He should have resigned or retired. He should have resigned or retired, not been removed. And people who cannot represent, if at all you are found guilty of misconduct, then you cannot represent. These are the people who cannot represent. If you are guilty of misconduct, you cannot represent the case. If you are convicted under any offense, see, you are trying to represent a case of another person, you yourself are convicted of any offense under the GST law or the earlier indirect tax laws, or you are insolvent. During the period of insolvency, you cannot take up the matter. Who are the persons who can never take up the matter? Who can never represent an assessee? Government officer who's removed, guilty of misconduct, convicted under GST law or old indirect taxes forever, and finally, when you're talking about person who's insolvent during the period of insolvency, he cannot take up the matter. So that is all and all about your appeals. Everything about your appeals. Now, please understand, when you talk about your concept of GST appellate tribunal, a small change is there. What we used to call it as national bench or regional bench is now termed as principal bench, and what we used to call it as your state bench or your area bench, now it is called as state benches. You may have multiple state benches in a state. So when you talk about your principal bench, it will have a president, judicial member, technical member, center, and technical member state. And in your state bench, there will be 2 judicial members. The senior most will be designated as vice president, and technical member center and technical member state. Please understand that if any question of law deals with your place of supply, that can be handled only and only by principal bench. A question of law which deals with place of supply cannot be handled by state bench. And state benches will be formed based on the request from the state government, and you can have multiple state benches in a state. So you can have multiple state benches in a state. So place of supply matters will always go to principal bench, and other matters can go to any bench, but basically it will go only to state bench, because principal bench is located in, there's only one principal bench which is located in New Delhi. So as far as principal bench is considered, it is there at New Delhi. State benches will be there in each state based on request from the state, and one state can have multiple state benches. Now also understand that a case can be transferred from one bench to another bench by the president. So when you talk about transfer of cases, transfer of your cases can be done from one bench to another bench by the president. And when you talk about transfer of member, right, it can be transferred from one bench to another bench by government in consultation with the particular state government, obviously in consultation with the president. The difference is, when you talk about transfer of members, if it is transfer of technical member state, it can be transferred to a state bench in the same state. You cannot transfer technical member state to another state, and technical member state will be transferred from one bench to another bench within the same state. Multiple state benches, it can be transferred to another state bench of the same state. Now also understand that when you talk about your benches, normally matters are decided based on what? Matters are decided always based on multiple bench. The bench will be always consisting of 2 or more members. So whenever you're talking about matters to be decided, it will contain 2 or more members. A single member bench, 2 or more members bench will always be there. A single member bench is there only if the amount is less than 50 lakhs and it does not involve question of law. It deals only with question of fact. Otherwise, it is always, in all other cases, it will be 2 or more members bench, and judgment is decided based on majority. If there is a tie, if it is a principal bench, it will be referred to another member of principal bench. If that another member is not there, it will be referred to any member of state bench. And if it is state bench, if it is a tie, generally it is decided by majority rule. If it is tie, then it will be referred to another member of state bench in the same state. If there is no another member of state bench in the same state, it will be referred to another member of state bench of another state. So it will be decided by majority rule. That another member will also be taken into account, and that it will be decided by majority rule. So whether it is principal bench or state bench, the decision is taken by majority. If there is a tie, If it is principal bench, refer to another member of principal bench, then decide. If not, refer to another member of any state bench. If there is a state bench, if there is a tie, refer to another member of state bench in the same state. If it's not available, another state. Then finally decide what is the conclusion. So that is a small change when you talk about your appellate tribunal. Now let us see a very simple and small topic called as your advance ruling. Now, advance ruling is nothing but getting consultancy from department itself. Now, when you talk about advance ruling, there will be a ruling or decision given by the advance ruling authority of advance ruling, or appellate authority of advance ruling. We can call it as A square R or A cube R. Authority of advance ruling A square R, or appellate authority of advance ruling A cube R to the applicant. Now, who can be the applicant? Applicant can be anyone, whether he is registered or desirous of getting registration. Not necessarily registered. This time the term used is a bit different. Registered or desirous of getting registration, not liable. Desirous of getting registration. So, applicant will have certain doubts where he will make an application. Now, he might have doubts with respect to goods or services, the supply of which is already undertaken or it is proposed to be undertaken. He cannot ask questions on any matters. So, the question should be specific questions which will be seeing, but two things are very clear. Applicant can be a person who's registered or who's desirous of getting registration. Second thing, that activity on which he is having a question could have been already undertaken or proposed to be undertaken, either past or even future. Now, on what questions he can go for advance ruling? So, section 95 talks about advance ruling and the applicant, and 97 talks about the questions which can be asked to advance ruling. The list of questions that you can go and ask to your A square R authority for advance ruling or A cube R appellate authority for advance ruling. You can have questions with respect to your classification, rate of tax, including interpretation of a notification. So, classification is about rate of tax, whether it is 5, 0, 5, 12, etc., etc. Application of notification. Notification includes exemption notification. Any type of notification, whether exemption notification or other than exemption notification. It can be an RCM notification. RCM notification is not an exemption notification. It can be any such notification. That is the first part. Then you can have doubts with respect to your time of supply and value of supply. These two are separate questions. Time of supply questions, value of supply questions. You can have doubts with respect to your ITC, admissibility of ITC, which is utilized or deemed to be terrorist. ITC issues. The moment you have any issues with ITC, you can go and ask advance ruling whether it is eligible or not. You can have questions with respect to your liability to pay tax, your liability to get registered. Whether you get to get registered or whether you are liable to pay tax. Whether you are liable to pay tax. And you can also ask a question where you are challenging the levy itself. Whether a particular thing done by the applicant amounts to supply. Amounts to supply. Basically, you can ask question with respect to levy, classification, valuation, time of supply. These are the main issues. Then small other issues. Interpretation of a notification including exemption notification, liability to pay tax, liability to get registered. Liability to get registered. Now understand that when you talk about liability to pay tax, it includes what type of tax. So even place of supply questions can be asked. Though there are different views, but even place of supply questions can be asked. Why? Liability to pay tax includes liability to pay what type of tax? Whether it is CGST, SGST or whether it is IGST. So even place of supply questions can be asked understanding the term liability to pay tax. Yes, I am liable to pay tax, but what tax? Am I liable to pay CGST, SGST or am I liable to pay IGST? So place of supply can also be asked reading this particular point. These are the questions that you can take to your advanced ruling. Now, as I said, there are two authorities. One is A square R, which is authority for advanced ruling. The next level is A cube R, which is appellate authority for advanced ruling. Appellate authority for your advanced ruling. A square R and your A cube R. Now, when you're going to go to A, first step is always A square R. So, applicant is going to make an advanced ruling application to A square R. Now, that is a particular form where you have to apply in a particular form. Advanced ruling application 1, ARA1. You can ask only specified question, the list of which you have seen, and the amount that you have to pay is 5,000. CGST 5,000, SGST 5,000. All the amounts that we see here, if it is in terms of numbers, it is all about CGST. The same value will be that in SGST. The same value will be that in SGST. Right. Now, your A square R, what it will do first? This is the first process. Applicant will make an application along with the prescribed fees. Then, A square R will forward it to the concerned officer and call for the records and returns them after examining. He will forward it. He will tell that, okay, you take this application and if required, he will call for the records and returns and return it them. He will call for the records and after examining, will return it back to the concerned officer. Now, third part. The details are available with now A square R, authority for advanced ruling. What it is going to do? It is either going to accept the application or reject the application, for which there is no time limit. But there is an outer time limit for passing the ruling. There is no specific time limit for accepting or rejecting the application. Now, there are two types of acceptance rejection. One, there is a mandatory rejection. There is a mandatory rejection, which means A square R has to tell, no, you cannot come. If at all the question that is being asked is already pending for the same applicant or it is already decided by the same applicant, A square R will tell that no. The issue that you have asked is already pending for you or it is already decided for you by some other authority. I cannot touch it. It should be an untouched issue. It should be an untouched issue. If it is an issue which is already touched, whether it is decided or not, even if it is pending, A square R will tell that no, I cannot take it. Obviously, there will be principle of natural justice, no doubt, but it will reject it. It will reject it. The second is a case where there may be acceptance or there may be rejection. It will ask for more application on more records. Here the assessee and also the concerned officer to whom the application was forwarded. Listen to both the parties, applicant and the concerned officer, then decide whether to reject or not. And if it is going to be rejected, obviously principle of natural justice. But in this scenario, if you see carefully, it may be accepted, may be rejected. At times, it may be rejected even though it is not pending at the same applicant level. It is pending for some other company which is in highlight. Advanced ruling authority comes to know that the same matter is already taken up by Reliance Limited and it is already fighting the case in Supreme Court. Advanced ruling authority will tell that though it is not pending in your case, which means there is no question of mandatory restriction. But I am using my discretion, I am going to reject it. Why? Tomorrow if Supreme Court tells something, that will be binding and not mine. So it will try to reject it. If it is pending in the same applicant's case, mandatory rejection. If it is pending in some other assessees, optional rejection. It may be rejected, may not be rejected. Right. When the matter is taken, finally assume that the application is accepted. First step is to decide whether to proceed or not. To accept it or not. If it is rejected, the matter closes there. If it is accepted, now it has to give a decision. If it is accepted, now it has to give its opinion or ruling. That opinion or ruling should be given within 90 days of application. Within 90 days of application. Right. In a normal case, advanced ruling pronounced after examining all the records placed by both applicant as well as the concerned officer, and to both of them there will be opportunity of being heard. Principle of natural justice will be that. Final order should be within 90 days, which means within 90 days you have to do two things. First, Decide whether to accept the case or not. Second, give ruling. Everything should happen within 90 days. Decide whether it should be admitted or not, whether the application should be accepted or not. Then give the ruling. But at times, what will happen is you might get an advance ruling, a third A square R ruling, where there is divergent views. If the members of AAR differs on any question, one member is telling that no, this should be the scenario. 5% is the right answer because classification can be taken up. Other member of A square is telling that no, 5% is not right, 12% is right. The moment there is difference of opinion. In appeals, we will see that if at all there is a difference of opinion, you go with majority. But in advanced ruling, if at all there is a difference of opinion, there is no question of any majority, it will be referred to the next level, AQ bar. It will be referred to the next level, AQ bar. In appeals, what will happen? If there is difference of opinion, majority will prevail. Whereas in advanced ruling, there is difference of opinion between the members of A square R. Refer it to AQ bar. Refer it to AQ bar. Now, when we are seeing your AQ bar, finally the order will be given. A copy of order will be given to your applicant, to proper officer, also to consent officer. Final order will be given. Now, what is the next level? AQ bar. Now, let us try to appreciate the difference between A square R and AQ bar. A square R entry point is only 1. AQ bar, there are 3 entry points. First, applicant has lost the case in A square R. Now, it is coming in AQ bar within 30 days plus 30 days extension. After the ruling of A square R, within 30 days plus 30 days extension, it has to make an application. This time the fees is doubled. CGST 10,000, SGST 10,000. Second, department has lost in A square R. Now department, that is the concerned officer, is going to AQ bar. Again, same time limit, within 30 days plus 30 days extension. But this time no fees. Department is not going to pay any fees, even in appeals. No fees. Third, A square R were having difference of opinion. So there was an order of A square R where there was difference of opinion. Therefore, it was referred to AQ bar. There are 3 entry points. Applicant, consent officer, reference. 2 are appeals and 1 is reference. And for appeals, whether by applicant or consent officer, the time limit is 30 days plus 30 days extension. For reference, automatically it will be referred back. There's no question of any time limit. There is fees, but only when applicant is making an appeals, and this time the fees is CGST 10,000 plus SGST 10,000. Now, what will happen in the normal scenario, normal case? In a normal case, AQ bar will either confirm or modify the order passed by A square R or pass the order referred to by A square R. If it is appeals, confirm or modify the order. If it is reference, finally given order. Finally given order. And that order has to be given within 90 days of appeals or referral. Copy of the order will be given to everyone. To the consent officer, to the applicant, even to your jurisdictional officer. That copy of order is the same point. Again, here also the time limit is 90 days. But 90 days starts from where? From the date of appeals or from the date of reference. Don't you think that the same situation can come in AQR where the members are having difference of opinion? Where the members are having difference of opinion? This time, if the members of AQ bar are having difference of opinion, it means advance ruling cannot be given, get lost. We are not in a position to give advance ruling, there is no other remedy. Can you challenge the order of A square R and AQ bar in your appeals? No. You cannot challenge it. It is binding on you. You cannot challenge it. So, if the members of A square R differs in opinion, it will be referred to AQ bar. But if the members of AQ bar are having difference of opinion, full stop. Advance ruling for this matter cannot be given. Cannot be given. It means assessee has to fight his own battle. He has to wait for the notice, get an order, challenge it in appeals, take the matter to Supreme Court if required, finally get the final identity from the Supreme Court. Now all the other small aspects. We actually done with A, advanced ruling, A square as well as A Q bar. All the other small provisions. There is no cross empowerment, which means whatever A square or A Q bar is there in the state will be same that will be deemed to be appointed even for the center, which means there will be one member of the state and one member of the center. And the officer are going to sit and decide in case of advanced ruling should be of an authority of joint commissioner or above rank. JC or above rank. When you talk about JC or above rank, it is joint commissioner, additional commissioner, commissioner, principal commissioner. Joint commissioner, additional commissioner, commissioner and principal commissioner. Only these people can sit in advanced ruling. Now, if at all there is an order given by A, and all these points, whatever you are discussing, are equally good for A square R as well as A Q bar. If at all there is an order given by A square R or A Q bar, which is clearly having a mistake apparent on record, which means there is a number which is written. Finally, in entire ruling is telling that 5% seems to be more logical, Final judgment has said that it is 12%. It is a mistake apparent on the record. It can be rectified within 6 months from the date of order of A square R or A Q bar. This can be raised. This issue can be raised either by A square or A Q bar themselves or concerned officer, jurisdictional officer or applicant. The error could have been pointed out by applicant, officer, that is concerned officer or the jurisdictional officer, or A square R, A Q bar suo moto. Suo moto will find out that mistake and try to rectify it. But that has to be happening within 6 months. But the moment that rectification is resulting into increasing the liability or decreasing the ITC, there should be an opportunity of being heard to the assessee. If it is against the assessee, increasing the tax liability or decreasing the ITC, there should be an opportunity given to the assessee before the final decision or before the final rectification is done in the next 6 months. Now, the most important of all the aspects, what is the binding nature of A square R? A square R or A cube R, binding nature. Who are all bound by the ruling of A square R and A cube R? Only that particular applicant and that particular concerned officer, jurisdictional officer with respect to that applicant, not with respect to other assessees. Not with respect to other assessees. It is a coverage given only for that applicant. If at all you are talking about Mahabharata, that coverage will protect only Karnan. It will not protect anyone. It will not protect anyone else. Indradev was not in a position to give that coverage to even Arjuna. So it is not going to protect anyone. It is going to protect whom? Only that. It is binding only on that applicant, on an officer, but only with respect to that assessee. If the same matter comes in front of the same officer, but with respect to other company, he is not bound by the advanced ruling. He is not bound by the advanced ruling. Now, advanced ruling shall be binding till the facts are the same and the law is the same. Till the facts, circumstances and law is the same, that is binding. Please understand that if you have gone for advanced ruling and I find that your advanced ruling is in favor for me, I cannot use that as my protection. But yes, while fighting my case in appeals, I can refer, see, in this matter, A square R or A cube R has given judgment which is in favor of assessee, though it is not a judicial precedent like High Court judgment and Supreme Court judgment. But while putting my arguments, I can add this argument as well. It is not at all a judicial precedent. That doesn't mean that it is not having any value. While putting my argument, I can put this argument also that in one of the cases of so and so assessee, there was a ruling given by A square R or A cube R as the case may be, which was in favor of assessee. So it is not binding on appellate authority, it is not binding on appellate tribunal, it is not binding on High Court or Supreme Court. But it will add some goodwill to your case. You may take that as your help. Now, the other small points, what if I went for an advanced ruling? This actually happens and this people think at times they do planning. I went for an advanced ruling giving false information. Giving false information. Right. Maybe if time permits, anyone wants to know the real practical case, maybe in the break we'll discuss. I went for an advance ruling giving false information, incorrect information, which means advance ruling was obtained by way of fraud, suppression of facts or misrepresentation of facts. It will be held that advance ruling is void ab initio and all the provisions of the act will apply as if there was no advance ruling given. But obviously, there will be a principle of natural justice given to the assessee to prove that it is not a case of fraud, suppression of facts, misrepresentation of facts. That opportunity will be given. All the other things will happen as if that advance ruling was not given. One more important thing will happen. When you see your section 73 and section 74, there is a time limit to give notice and order. Section 73, time limit for notice is 2 years 9 months. Order 3 years. And section 74, notice 4 years 6 months. And order 5 years. In calculating that 2 years 9 months, 3 years or 4 years 6 months, 5 years, the time gap which was lost from the date of that advance ruling till the date of order becoming void, from the date of the advance ruling pronouncement till the date of order becoming void will be added to your time limit. So you calculate the same time limit, 2 years 9 months, 3 years, 4 years 6 months, 5 years, plus that time. Plus that, go with this simple step, plus that time. What time? The time gap between the advance ruling order and that advance ruling order becoming void. Supposing the time gap is say 586 days. Calculate 2 years 9 months, calculate 3 years, calculate 4 years 6 months, calculate 5 years plus add that 485 or 486, whatever the number of days, add that. Add those days. That is a very simple way to find out the final time limit. Now all other miscellaneous provision, advance ruling authority will have all the powers of civil court by way of discovery and inspection, calling an attendance of a person to examine on oath, issuing commissions, asking someone to produce books of accounts, etc. All the powers of CPC will be clearly applicable. Simultaneously, it can have its own procedure. What will be the timing? What will be the uniform? How many people can come? How they have to address, etc. They can have their own procedure as well. So that is everything about your advance ruling.